What is up, everybody? Welcome in to a live stream covering today's craziness going around the NHL with free agent frenzy. Glad to have everybody here. We're going to have some fun stuff to talk about. Already, news has been filtering in today, with the unofficial tamper period. Even though that's not a thing anymore, they're still talking, they're still finding deals. So, we've got some stuff that we can already go over. But before we do that, I want to go ahead and welcome my friend Curtis Blix Lorade joining me today in Burge's shoes because Burge has a job he can't step away from for free agency. But Blix made the right appropriate preparations and the appropriate prioritization and made some time to join us today. So thanks for joining, Blix. How you doing today, buddy? Can't hear you. You're muted. Good start, everybody. I'll let you know when we can hear you. So let's go ahead and take a gander at some of the things that we've already seen come through the pipe. So we have rumors that Steven Stamkos is looking at the New Jersey Devils and the Nashville Predators, which is pretty fascinating. Long-term captain, the entire career that he's had has been with the Tampa Bay Lightning, but he's already been through this free agency thing before. He's already gone through the whole process, um, met with suitors and everything, and ultimately decided to extend with the Tampa Bay Lightning, which was the wise choice because he ended up getting a couple Stanley Cups out of it. But now the Bolts seem to have prioritized other things, and they've gone out and they've agreed to terms with Jake Gensel after acquiring his rights from the Carolina Hurricanes for a third-round pick. So very interesting. Pierre LeBrun was reporting 26 minutes ago that Nashville is now the front runner to land Steven Stamkos, which is pretty interesting. Um, Bruins news. There's nothing out right now in regards to any rumors that the Bruins are signing anyone yet, but former Bruin Matt Grzelcyk has been rumored to have agreed to terms with the Pittsburgh Penguins, and that is interesting because he has that BU connection. The coach of the Penguins, Mike Sullivan, Charlie McAvoy's father-in-law, actually coached Grzelcyk at Boston University. So it'll be good to see Matt Grzelcyk continuing his career. Admittedly, I'm happy that it's not going to be continuing in Boston. Blix, how's that mic going? You get that figured out yet? No, you have not. If you guys have any questions, feel free to jump into the chat. Happy to answer questions or tackle anything in specific. Um, News coming through that centerman Shane Pinto has officially requested a trade from the Ottawa Senators, which is really fascinating, especially with the Boston Bruins being in a little bit of a pickle in the center ice position. I do expect them to address the center ice position today. So keep your eyes open for that. Hey, Bruins Fanatic 100. How you doing, Cam? Hope you're doing well, buddy. Are you expecting anything big today in free agency? 8 minutes ago, Elliot Friedman reports that Eric Johnson resigns in Philadelphia. But when we start getting confirmed signings, we'll go ahead and put those into the ticker at the bottom. So we can go ahead and confirm that Gensel is a Tampa Bay Lightning. What else has been confirmed? Chris Tanev to Toronto. Can't wait for Sweeney to blow it again with your beautiful voice showing the way. Yeah, well, we got cash to burn this year. Let's see what we do. To those of you in Canada, happy Canada Day. We appreciate you spending some of your time on Canada Day with us. So Gensel signed a 7 times 9 million contract. All signs point to Brandon Montour signing with Seattle, which is pretty interesting. Considerable interest in veteran center Sean Monahan. The Columbus Blue Jackets amongst those interested in him on a long-term deal. That is from Bob McKenzie. Corey Perry, a good bet to return to the Oilers. Frank Saravalli does have the first bit of Bruins news coming through. Sounds like NHL Bruins have done a significant amount of legwork on both Nikita Zadorov and Elias Lindholm as free agency opens. Blix is just going to go ahead and restart his PC. He's going to try to rejoin us here momentarily. So let's go ahead and just pull up the old Twitter machine. And I'll share my screen and we'll break things down as I see them. So let's zoom in here. So yeah, first little bit of Bruins news right here, which was kind of speculated. Kevin Paul DuPont came out and said that, if the rumors were accurate, that the Bruins could very well start off free agent frenzy with a bang and bring in Zadorov and Lindholm right at the beginning. So it'll be fascinating to kind of monitor that. Montour deal in Seattle will be 7 times 7.14.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Welcome to the show. Praise be.
Thank God.
I'm going to turn you down a tiny bit. Oh, I can't. You can do that yourself.
I can turn down a little bit here.
Yeah, you're a little loud, which is okay.
How is that?
That's good. You're good now.
Awesome.
What do you think about that report that came through from Frank Saravalli? Sounds like the NHL Bruins have done a significant amount of legwork on both Nikita Zadorov and Elias Lindholm as free agency opens.
Well, from anyone who's been paying attention, you could call it very unsurprising. These are kind of the two big names that the Bruins have been linked to, for a while now, since the start of all the talk has been coming through. I'm going to be very happy with both of those signings as long as the dollars and cents make sense. Obviously, they are both two strong players in the NHL. They're going to bring good things to the Bruins. It just depends on how much they cost.
Yeah.
You don't want them to throw all of their cap space. I mean, they obviously still have to re-sign Swayman, and the latest reports are not looking amazing as far as where the two sides are on where they want to come to agree, anyways. So might need a little more money than where maybe the Bruins are expecting, or us as fans. Oh, geez,
Closing in on Brian Giunta per Heat Daddy. Oh my God. Chris Johnston just said on TSN
Classic.
that Elias Lindholm is expected to go to the Bruins for a hefty number. That's not very descriptive. So a hefty number could mean a bunch of things.
Yeah,
But,
I mean,
go ahead.
Blackhawks
like you said,
hefty
Teuvo
number.
Teravainen.
Ooh, interesting. That's where he started his career in Chicago, right?
Did he? I think that sounds right. Yeah. To the Google machine.
Exactly.
Teuvo Teravainen. Yeah, he was. Yeah, in 2013, 2014.
Yeah, Chicago Chicago draft pick, I should say. Yeah, I mean, like you said, hefty number. That, I mean, who knows, really? Like, until we see an actual reported number, one man's hefty could be another man's reasonable. So can't make a deliberation until we actually see what's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a reminder, if you're in here tuning in, listening in, feel free to jump into the chat. We'd love to answer your questions. Do whatever you guys are looking to kind of go over. We're happy to provide some analysis and some of our perspectives here. Not that we know everything, but I'd like to think I know everything. Except for the CBA, which Army was very kind enough to point out that I don't know that. So,
well, who does really? I mean, that's such a complicated.
Yeah,
and especially once cap friendly goes down, nobody's going to know what it says.
Yeah, Washington cap friendly assholes. Burge, what's up, fella? Wish I could have been live with you. I wish you could have too, buddy. Go get that bread.
Some
Burge,
people
you see,
just can't get away.
I know it's really sad that you prioritize your career over your hobby. Burge, what's your take on the rumored Lindholm and Zadorov potential deals coming through? Yeah, I don't know everything. Okay. I'm very interested to see what happens with Danton Heinen today.
I would be surprised if he is still a Boston Bruin after today. Well, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he's unsigned after today. He's certainly not going to be one of the bigger fish to sign in free agency. But I just think the Bruins don't necessarily have room in their bottom six. Obviously, Danton Heinen is a great player. I would love to see him back in a Bruins uniform. And he did an amazing job on his prove it deal coming out of a PTO last year. But with the year that he had, I think he's going to make a little bit too much or command a little bit too much money for the Bruins, even though they have lots of money in free agency. They just have bigger holes to fill.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can obviously pencil in Mark Kostelik as the fourth line center. They addressed that as an area of need in the Linus Ullmark deal. He wasn't just a throw-in. He's going to be the fourth line center for the Boston Bruins this year. Big body. Cam Neely probably dropped his drawers when he saw him available. He was very excited and is also really good at the faceoff dot. So I think you could probably see a lot of interchangeability on that fourth line between Johnny Beecher and Mark Kostelik. And those two guys are going to probably be working a lot together in the bottom six. Other names to keep an eye on for the bottom six for the Boston Bruins this year. This player is currently under contract, and that's going to be Justin Brazeau. I really do believe that Brazeau earned himself a spot, at least to start this season. this year. So we'll kind of see. So that's 3 players already that I'm penciling into the bottom 6. Um, be very kind of fascinating to see what else they do. Maybe does a guy like Vinny Lettieri, who just came over in the Lauco deal and has some experience in the Bruins system, does he get a crack on the bottom 6? Does that go to Fabian Lysell? Does Georgi Merkulov get maybe a third line center type of look? There's a lot kind of up in the air, and I'm really interested to see what the Boston Bruins do with their depth at other positions today.
Yeah, and I mean they still have guys. I mean, obviously they still have Morgan Geekie for the bottom 6. And I really think that third line is mostly filled out as well, between Geekie, Frederick, and potentially Patra. But I mean, they have other names in Providence like Kuntar and Riley Duran coming in his first pro
True.
season. I mean, even Patrick Brown is still signed through next year too.
Yep.
So there's plenty of names.
John Farinacci, who signed as a free agent, could maybe make a jump. I've heard some people that are pretty well plugged in on the Providence side of things saying some pretty good things about him and how he developed last year at the pro level as he made that jump. Riley Duran, I think you had mentioned him, maybe. He also made a big jump as well. It's going to be really interesting. I have to echo. I don't know if any of you guys follow Dom Tiano. Great follow. Really well plugged in guy. He was saying he's got a lot of concern about the Boston Bruins defensive depth. Outside of these guys that are already under contract at the NHL level, like organizationally speaking, Providence looks pretty bare right now. So it wouldn't surprise me to see a couple AHL style deals come through for the blue line in Providence today. Burge says Lindholm, he's amped about. Zadorov, scared for the AAV, but like the player. I think that they both obviously fill a big need for this team right now. The Bruins don't really have a bruising, punishing defenseman that they can trust in the top 4. And obviously we don't have really a top 6 center. Coyle can play 2C, but he's, it's no secret he's best off to be slotted in at 3C. So it'll be interesting. I heard Rear Admiral, who sometimes has some good connections, saying that he had reason to believe Chandler Stevenson would be wearing Bruins black and gold today too. So could the Bruins potentially bring in both Lindholm and Stevenson today? I think that would be fascinating because I do think that Stevenson's much more of a play driver than what Elias Lindholm is. He's an offensive, speedy skater and probably would be signed at a much shorter term, lower AAV than what Elias Lindholm will be. Versus I'm with Blix in Discord. Lysell has a big camp coming up. Could be one of his last shots to make it in Boston. Yeah, I mean, I don't ever want to be a guy that creates an ultimatum for a player because some players develop on different schedules. Like obviously Lysell has tools. Sometimes it just takes a little bit longer to put it together. So
yeah, I think as far as the Bruins standpoint comes, this is kind of the most important camp for him to prove that he can be a full-time NHLer, at least for the Bruins. Not to say that he, if it doesn't work in Boston, he is a supremely talented player with lots of NHL level skill.
yeah.
I think it's necessarily just the way he utilizes that skill and sees the offensive zone and how he drives play is a lot of the things that they've wanted him to work on. It's not his raw talent. That's never been the question. So even if he doesn't make it as a Boston Bruin, I can easily see him, getting a chance in another organization. That's not to say, we're obviously looking way far ahead there. I think he has a very good chance still to make it with the Bruins, and I certainly hope he does, because that obviously means he made those corrections to his game, and the reports out of Providence are positive from right before his injury that he was kind of making those changes. So
I do think that the signing by Chicago, going out and grabbing Teuvo Teravainen and Tyler Bertuzzi, is a good move. It's a savvy move because they've got a really young team and they want to shelter Connor Bedard. as much as possible and give him, a leadership core around him that can support him. I don't know if I'd really label Bertuzzi as a leader per se, but he's obviously been around in the league for a while, and it'll be interesting to see how that team works out. You saw that they were willing to be aggressive at the draft. Reports were that the Blackhawks offered Columbus their unprotected first round pick from next year's draft for the fourth overall pick. So that indicates everything to me that Chicago is saying, hey, we're going to be better this year. We're not going to be tanking. We're going to try to play better. They have a fully healed Taylor Hall, Nick Foligno, obviously, and then now these two free agent forwards to supplement Connor Bedard.
Yeah, their top six is going to look a lot different for the better, obviously. And Bedard's going to have, well, like you said, I don't know if I would call necessarily either of those guys as big leaders when it comes to the NHL, but they are veterans who know how to be professionals and have produced. So whether they're leaders or not, they're going to be able to, bring Bedard along and
yeah,
like you said, protect him too. I mean, they're both scrappier players who aren't afraid to mix it up, and certainly Bertuzzi is one that would not hesitate, as we know, to protect a teammate, and so it's certainly going to help Bedard, even if Chicago's not. I mean, I certainly don't think they're going to be close to the playoffs with these two free agent signings, but it's a step in the right direction for them, and certainly kind of a stopgap to maybe keep Bedard happy for the meantime, play with some talented players and just grow his game and learn to play in the NHL on a daily basis.
Yeah, super interesting to hear about what's going on in Nashville. GM Barry Trotz is being very aggressive today. Looks like they are the front runners on, like we've previously talked about, Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault, Brady Shea, and they're also in on Chandler Stevenson right now. Fireworks over there in Nashville.
Yeah, that's actually incredible. I mean, I'm just going to look up their top six here. I mean, obviously they already have Philip Forsberg as pretty much their top player right now, but adding, I mean, Philip Forsberg, they have Ryan O'Reilly, Gustav Nyquist. They're adding two more powerhouse wingers in Stamkos and Marchessault at this point in their career, and also very strong power play players as well. So, yeah, I mean, they're taking a huge step, and as well Brady Shea. I mean, that's Roman Josi and Brady Shea as your top two defensemen. You can certainly do a lot worse in this league.
Yeah. They still have grizzled veteran Bruins player Jeremy Lazon on the blue line too. I did hear that they were closing in on an extension with Alexander Carrier, who is pretty good underlying metric numbers defenseman in Nashville. I know at the deadline when Nashville wasn't 100% sure what they were going to be doing, the Bruins were rumored to be interested in acquiring Carrier. So I was curious if he hit the market. Usually when Don Sweeney sets his eyes on guys, he tries very hard to secure them when he has the opportunity. But sounds like Carrier will be not on the market after all.
Yeah, it's definitely a shame. I mean, but yeah, Nashville is going to be looking pretty solid next year. That kind of like that stocks up their top six, at least for or their six defensemen, I should say. They also have grizzled veteran Luke Shen on the back end there.
Good point. Yeah, they still have Ryan O'Reilly, don't they?
They do have Ryan O'Reilly. They have Dante Fabro on the back end as well.
Yeah, good one. Yeah, that's a good team. That's a playoff team for sure next year.
I think so. I think so as well. And like the biggest things they were missing was really like a number two defenseman and a couple of like a couple top six wingers. Really was their biggest need. Because Ryan O'Reilly and Nyquist it's kind of like the Bruins situation where they're not, I mean, I would say it's better than the Bruins situation, but they're not neither of them at this point in their career are probably like actual top, top line elite centers, but they're both very good second line centers in their own right. So adding wingers on their sides that can play is only going to improve their game as well. They both had great years last year, so
Yeah. Some news just came in from Pierre LeBrun. Seems like Steven Stamkos will indeed be signing with the Nashville Predators today. It will come out around 4 years and $8 million annually, AAV. So Steven Stamkos moving on from Tampa Bay.
that is honestly that's the biggest thing out of free agency this year is Steven Stamkos moving on from Tampa Bay. That's the type of player. It's like a Bergeron-esque player where you think, I mean, he's been in Tampa Bay his whole career. Certainly, you think he's going to finish out his career in Tampa Bay. So that's just crazy surprising that he's moving on. Obviously, I think his ask was a little bit more. It's probably a lot more than Tampa Bay wanted to pay him at this stage in his career, kind of hoping for a hometown discount.
It's going to be weird seeing Stamkos in a different jersey.
Absolutely. Absolutely, it will be. It would be like seeing Bergeron in a different, and not a Bruins jersey. I mean, it's just why it's going to be wild.
Really, really interesting. Brandon Montour, Cup winner. We've already talked about this briefly, but just recapping, Brandon Montour is joining the Seattle Kraken on a 7-year deal. Seattle's also in the mix to try to add a top 6 guy in the forward side of things. Tyler Toffoli rumored to be agreeing to a deal with the San Jose Sharks. Rick Dhaliwal, who's pretty well plugged in on the Vancouver side of things, reports that Nikita Zadorov is done in Boston. So the deal will be coming out soon.
Probably
Sean
on the top of the
Monahan,
hour.
yeah, probably right at noon around then. Sean Monahan is deliberating now. It's expected that this deal will come in around 5 years and just north of 25 million. And it looks like he's down between the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Winnipeg Jets.
Oh wow! It looks like Nashville is also still in on Chandler Stevenson.
Yep,
I don't know if you already said that.
I did. Yeah,
That's even wilder. I mean,
yeah. If they pull, like, it's mind-boggling. Like, what do you do with that forward depth? Like,
I mean
I'm,
that's whew.
like, I'm pulling this up for Nashville.
Realistically, I mean, I know Stamkos isn't really a center at this point in his career, and neither is Marchessault. They've both been playing wing pretty much exclusively, but you have four. I mean, you have 5 guys who could play in the top 6 as center.
Yeah,
In that at that point,
man, it would be a lot of fun to watch Forsberg and Stamkos on a power play together.
oh my gosh.
Oh my god, the Predators only have 4 defensemen under contract right now
Yeah.
at the NHL level. That's wild.
Yeah, that's why Brady Shea he's arguably more important than the forwards for them, honestly.
Yeah, we literally named all the defensemen that they have under contract already without without even looking
Right,
at cap
right.
friendly.
And Fabro, Lozano, and Chen are not. I mean,
those are like your bottom 3 defensemen.
yeah, for sure. Like realistically, on a Stanley Cup winning team, they're probably all, on your bottom pairing.
Yeah, I mean Fabro, I guess, is like an okay, serviceable second pair guy, but I remember when I wanted the Boston Bruins to draft Dante Fabro over Charlie McAvoy in the draft. Boy, was I wrong.
I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, I mean, if Fabro's your 4th defenseman, and you have like that's totally fine for sure.
Stamkos, I mean, he got 40 goals last year.
Yeah,
But I'm happy that the Bruins didn't give him a 4-year, $8 million per deal. Like that would have been too much for that
I
guy at
agree.
that age.
It's and for a winger too, obviously not a position of great need, or at least not the first position of great need that the Bruins have. To give out $8 million to, they don't need an $8 million winger. They need a $6 million winger.
Yeah. Joe Haggerty, not expecting big shocks from the Bruins on free agency as Elias Lindholm and Nikita Zadorov continue to be the names most likely to sign. Both players address big time needs with the black and gold, but they also need primary scoring on the wing.
Yeah, hopefully that's not the only two signings we get out of the Bruins today.
Yeah.
Wow.
There were talks all week with Detroit, but it sounds like Shane Gostisbehere will head to market today. So like the old Ghost Bear, who was a legend in Arizona for a bit there. Also played in Philadelphia. Stereotypical offensive defenseman.
Yeah, not necessarily something the Bruins need to be going after. I mean, if they're signing Zadorov, then Zadorov, they certainly don't have any room for him. But it'll be interesting to see where he ends up. He certainly has a lot more to give at the NHL level, and in the right system and the right situation, he certainly has shown he can be very effective. The craziest thing I've seen today is that Chris Tanev signed for 6 years in Toronto.
Oh yeah, he's going
full no movement clause is insane.
He's going to Robota Island in like year 3. Just LTIR retirement for sure. Yeah, Sully from the Something's Brewing podcast, Michael Sullivan, he's like, if Zadorov comes to Boston, he's got to drop the Big Z moniker because that's not going to fly here. We already had a Big Z, and no one can ever match up to that guy.
No, certainly no Bruins fan will be calling him that. That's
no. In other news, the Boston Bruins did start their development camp today. So they have prospects on the ice today. It was good to see Matty Poitras was the first player on the ice for the Bruins. So I did see a clip of Dean Letourneau, our 6'7" centerman prospect that was drafted in the first round. The guy's flying up and down the ice.
And boy, he looks all of 6'7".
Oh yeah.
That is a large man. And yeah, honestly, the reports were not wrong. He is very fleet of foot for 6'7". He looks more like he's 6'1" out there with the way he moves, honestly.
Yeah. Multiple teams continue to show interest in Andre Kasha, who spent last season playing at home in Czechia. Edmonton and Pittsburgh among those who have inquired. Kyle Dubas loves Kasha.
Interesting.
Yeah,
that's a guy I really feel for.
Kevin Weeks. Yeah, this is already reported. Get out of here with your dumb videos.
I did see that with Kevin Weeks.
Think there's going to be any offer sheets this year?
I mean, it's tough to tell, right? Like, I think NHL teams in general, there's kind of a taboo around offering offer sheets. You know, you're kind of screwing over, quote unquote, that team. But there's a reason that it exists.
Yeah.
We've seen it happen in the past, and I don't know if it's necessarily worked out in the past for the teams that have signed, players to offer sheets, but I wish I'd see it more, to be honest. It would spark a little bit more intrigue in restricted free agents actually going to market. Like imagine if somebody offered sheeted Jeremy Swayman today. Like that would be insane. It's not going to happen, but it would be exciting as a fan standpoint, especially if you're a third party to maybe not Jeremy Swayman, but someone
Yeah.
else.
So, in case you don't know, free agency is not officially open yet, guys. Free agent signings are permitted to be processed by Central Registry as of noon. So, signings can be officially announced in 17 minutes. Here's a report from Darren Dredger. Jonathan Drouin likely hitting the open market. Boston, St. Louis, and the New York Rangers believed to be among the clubs most interested. Return to Colorado also possible.
Interesting. That's very interesting. I think Drouin would be a welcomed. I mean, again, it all depends on the money, right? Like he had a great year in Colorado this year. I think he had like
Yeah.
some like 60 points or so.
56 points.
Yeah, 56 points. I mean,
did he
certainly
play
playing
wing?
I think he played wing. Yeah.
McKinnon? Okay. I mean, that would be a potential budget middle six winger that would kind of fill a gap for us.
Yeah, I mean, not a big goal scorer, but like certainly 15 to 20 goal potential, maybe even 25 in his best year. He hasn't hit that mark before, but I wouldn't be opposed to it at the right money. I mean, he's certainly a very talented player.
So it sounds like Nashville is going to successfully steal Jonathan Marchessault from the New Jersey Devils. Everyone said that he was basically a devil, but the Predators have come in with an offer, according to Pierre LeBrun, of 5 years, around 5.5 million annual. So they're going to bring in both Stamkos and Marchessault today, and they're still at it. They could even bring in more. So that right there is 14 mil in cap space already committed, just with 2 signings for the Nashville Predators.
They are on a roll. I mean, if they get Chandler Stevenson as well, that's they're going to be a scary team.
Brendan Dillon will be signing with the New Jersey Devils on a 3-year deal.
Curious to see what that AAV comes in at. That's someone I wanted the Bruins to kind of at least take a stab at. Depending on what the dollars and cents were, but so I'll be curious to see how much he signs for.
Good bottom 6 play driver, gritty player. Jordan Martinook is not going to be signing out of Carolina. He's going to be re-signing with the Hurricanes on a 3-year deal, apparently.
That's actually, I mean, not that the Bruins were probably linked to him at all, but Martinook has been an incredible performer in Carolina's bottom 6 for a while now.
He had a beautiful save in the postseason, pulling that goal, the puck off the line. I don't think I would sign him to a 3.05 mil contract, though. 3 years at over 3 mil per season. I think I would cap out around 2 mil for a guy like that.
Yeah, I think that is a little rich for him. I mean, obviously, I think by the time he's in his final year of the deal, that's not going to look too bad if the cap continues with the way it's going. But at least in the Bruins situation, that's nothing you could give him for sure.
So Shukri Wrights is going to join us at 12:15 to provide some breakdown on some of the signings.
Awesome.
Let's see what else is coming through. Nothing else really reported right now.
It is kind of nice to see that a lot of the deals or suspected deals aren't necessarily coming through before noon, at least. It seems like last year, like we knew everything that was going to happen at like 11 a.m. It was all leaked.
Yeah, they had the official like tamper period then, I think, and now that they've gotten rid of that again, but it seems like these agents are just kind of doing their own thing anyway. Because I think all it takes is the GM to just say, "Hey, we're not going to be upset if you go talk to other teams. Like you're
Right.
free to go." Like because the onus is on the team that owns their rights to file any tampering complaints or accusations.
Yeah. Yeah. So as long as, like you said, as long as the team that owns their rights knows they're not going to sign them, there's no reason to, I guess, block them from exploring options.
So just conceptually, let's say hypothetically a team is interested in signing Jeremy Swayman to a offer sheet.
Okay.
That range would be, excuse me, Diet Pepsi kicking my ass. Oof. Oof. Um, I mean, what would you say a contract for Jeremy Swayman for him to sign an offer sheet would have to be? Dollar figure, just off the top of your head. What do you think
Honestly,
he
I
would be
mean,
signing at?
probably we're talking at least in the range of like 8.5 million for 7 years. I mean, no matter what, it's going to be a 7 year deal. But
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, at least 8.5, probably more for him to
Yeah.
realistically sign an offer sheet, I would say.
So if a team came in and offered Jeremy Swayman and he signed it with an offer sheet for 8.5 mil, the RFA compensation is a first round pick, a second round pick, and a third round pick. I think Jeremy Swayman's worth more to the Boston Bruins than those three picks. They would match easily, I think.
Oh, certainly. I think if you're the Boston Bruins, you're realistically for Jeremy's contract, I think, especially, I don't know if you saw the report with Igor Shesterkin asking the Rangers for 14% of the cap, which is I think it was like 13 plus $1 million a year. I forget the exact number. Because that's, I guess, Henrik Lundqvist was making 14% of the cap back when he had his big contract. Um, I mean, I don't think Jeremy's at 8.5. You're not unhappy, I think, with your number one goalie of the future, who's very young and going to be there for the next 10 plus years. You're hoping 8.5 million, especially with the cap going up. They're talking maybe even 5 million more next year. I think that's a great number. So if you're the Bruins, I mean, I think 8.5 million is nothing to snuff. Be worried about if that's the offer sheet.
Yeah.
Um, I think if you're getting, because the cutoff for the 4 first round picks is 11 and a half, or 11,452,295 dollars, if you want to be exact. Um, that's kind of where I think if you're the Bruins, I mean, to me, you don't entertain moving Swayman no matter what. I think they would just sign it, but that's where there's even a question on if you could let go of Swayman for 4 first round picks. But if you are talking, I mean, 8.5, if we're talking 8.5, there's only 7 teams in the NHL who can meet that, being
Right.
the Sabres, the Red Wings, Canadians, Predators, Islanders, Flyers, and the Kraken. Um, I mean, I think it would be crazy for those teams to do that. And like I said, I don't think it's going to happen, but
So speaking of the Sabres, they have agreed to terms with Sam Lafferty, according to Elliot Friedman, on
ooh,
a 2-year deal on a $2 million per season contract.
yeah, I think that's a solid. I mean, that's a solid deal for a solid, mostly fourth line player. Um, I think his time on ice is probably inflated a little bit from PK time, um, and he's played a lot of center in his day too. So I think that's a good number for a good fourth line center. Probably can play up into your third line in a pinch when needed as well.
There is rumors that the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to bring in Oliver Ekman Larson today as well.
Very interesting.
So they're doing quite a bit of work to redefine what their blue line looks like. Obviously, they retained Max Domi. They extended him before he was able to hit free agency, which makes sense. You know, he really enjoyed being a Leaf. His dad was a cult hero for the Leafs and Ty Domi, and he played a really good series against the Boston Bruins in the postseason for the Leafs as well. So um, Bertuzzi left. Bertuzzi's allegedly gone to Chicago. Just recapping some things here. Stamkos has signed an agreement with the Nashville Predators. Jonathan Marchessault allegedly has signed with the Nashville Predators. Tyler Toffoli to the San Jose Sharks. He's going to be helping out Macklin Celebrini in his rookie year. Um, some pretty interesting stuff. Oh, and additionally in Toronto, they extended goaltender Joseph Wall, who seems to be the heir apparent to the number one goalie job in Toronto.
That Tyler Toffoli deal is expected to come in at $6 million AAV as well for 4 years.
Good for him. I feel like he's been bouncing around so much, and he's always been looking for term and just hasn't really been able to find it.
Yeah, I mean it's a real shame too because very like solid goal scorer in this league. I mean he's got multiple 30-goal seasons. I mean 30 in the last. He's got over 30 in the last 2 seasons combined. I mean it's crazy to think that he's played for 6 teams in his career with how good of a goal scorer he can be. So yeah, I totally agree. It's great to see him get some term and like the respect that he deserves, honestly, as a very strong second line scoring winger.
Mark Scheig, who covers the Columbus Blue Jackets, just tackling on something that we were talking about earlier. One rumor that he heard at the NHL Combine was the possibility of an offer sheet or two league wide this year. We'll see if we get one, but it was a talking point, and there were rumors of it. He didn't name any names or anything, but
Wonder if we can. I'm gonna see if I can look up the restricted free agents here.
usually there's a name that comes through on signing day that no one really kind of expects for the Boston Bruins. So I'm really interested to see who that's going to be this year. You know, I think Drouin definitely kind of applies to that if they do end up bringing in Jonathan Drouin. But as Darren Dredger reported, it wasn't like a strong link to Boston, just that Boston was one of the teams that were most interested.
It certainly. I mean, it sounds like the Bruins are doing their due diligence, as I'm sure most teams are, just looking into options as they become available.
Bruins just announced their home opener this year. That's going to be taking place on Thursday, October 10th against Les Montreal Canadiens. That's a fun home opener.
That's how it should be like that every year. Honestly, I mean, what better way to open? Barring maybe Toronto with recency bias on the rivalry, you can't go wrong with a Bruins Montreal home opener. That's for sure.
Steven Stamkos, 35 seconds ago, just put out a tweet. Thank you, Tampa. Heart, heart. I don't have the words yet. I will soon. It's still too early to process. Just wanted everyone to know how thankful we are for 16 years as a Bull. My family and I are excited for the next chapter. So Stamkos is saying his goodbyes, giving his flowers out to the Tampa Bay Lightning. And we've already reported, it was already shared from other people that are insiders and well known. Stamkos will be taking his services to Broadway in Nashville and playing a little honky tonk hockey out there in Tennessee.
That's just going to be absolutely wild.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I can't even picture him in a Preds jersey until it actually happens.
Yeah, Burge, we did talk about Duran a few times. It'll be a good fit for the Bruins middle six wing, role kind of place that Jake DeBrusk will be leaving as a void. The other way to kind of think of the Zadorov deal that's coming through is replacing Grizzly. I don't like Grizzly's size, and obviously he wore down every time. So I like what Zadorov can do there. Another tweet from Friedman. Jacob Chikrin traded to the Washington Capitals for Nick
Wow.
Jensen and a 2026 third.
Interesting.
Full NHL schedule will be released tomorrow, which means I can plan my annual Bruins trip to wherever I'm going to go see them play.
I think that's a great trade for Washington. Not that it's going to change much for them, but
Interesting.
there are, looking at the restricted free agents list, there are a lot of big names on there.
Oh boy, Bruins will be playing the first night of the season, and they're going to be in Florida on October 8th for the Cup
Gross.
banner ceremony.
Apparently, Kevin Weeks is saying goalie Anthony Stolars has a 2-year contract in the $2 million range for the Leafs.
Stoley the goalie. Interesting. Okay.
Very solid backup goalie.
Yeah.
And that's Toronto not paying a lot in goalies. That puts them at just under 6 million, 5.66 million in cap hit for their two goalies.
Ding, ding, ding. It's officially noon. Signings can be processed.
Oh boy.
Anthony Mantha is signing with the Flames for one season at a $3.5 million cap hit.
At that money, that's kind of wish the Bruins had looked into that, honestly. Mantha certainly a player that has had some questions about his work ethic and drive shift to shift, but at $3.5 million, that's a great prove it deal for him, I suppose.
In addition to Chikrin, Washington expected to sign Matt Roy for a 7-year contract at $5.5 million each.
Wow.
I don't know much about Matt Roy.
No, I don't know much about him either. He's not a name that you kind of think of, especially not. I think he's more of a defensive defenseman, but he's had pretty good career in LA so far. That's also kind of like why we don't know much about him. Obviously, coverage in the West, not as much. We don't see him play a ton, but good for him though. 7th round pick.
Jonathan Marchessault officially with Nashville, 5 years per 5.5 mil.
Wow, that's very tame. I'm sure it's mostly because he got them to sign for 5 years, being that he's 33 years old. But 5.5 is less than I thought he would sign for, to be honest.
Yeah. Ekman Larson to Toronto, 4 years at 3.5 mil. Craig Smith to the Chicago Blackhawks. And that's a 1-year, $1 million. Here they all come. I did think Ekman Larson had a strong postseason and honestly a strong year in general for the Florida Panthers.
Yeah, he was a big part of their cup run, to be honest. Like Brandon Montour has, I think, slowly been, from reports that I read, has slowly been kind of taking a back seat to Ekman Larson, mostly on that second power play unit and just 5-on-5 minutes in general. So I think he had a great season, and it'll be interesting to see what he does going forward.
Former Bruin Pat Maroon has agreed to terms with the Chicago Blackhawks
Mhm.
on a 1-year, $1.3 million deal.
Boy, the Blackhawks are loading up a little bit there on veteran presence.
Yeah, they also get Tara Vinen, which we've talked about before, 3 years at $5.4 million. And we're going to break everything down when we have a little bit of time to digest this stuff. Minnesota Wild are going to be bringing in Yakov Trenin on a
Trennan's been
4-year, 4-year, $14 million contract. So what is that? 14 divided by 4.
math is very hard.
3.5. 3.5.
Not bad. He's been a mainstay in the Preds
Yeah,
third
good
line
bottom
for a
six
while.
guy.
Yeah. Lesser contract to add. Eric Comrie, goalie for the Jets, is going back on 1 year, 825. So they secure their backup goalie, I suppose.
Bertuzzi to Chicago. We already knew that. Bruins Fanatic 100 says last time we opened up against the Cup champs, we went to it that year. Yeah, well, we all know how that ended up. Blackhawks picking up all the Bruins retreads. Got to be very careful reading that word out loud. Retread. All right. Any other new deals coming through? Yakov Trenin. Yep. Okay, we got everything in here so far. Wait, what was that goalie signing you mentioned?
Eric Comrie to the Jets.
Darren Dredger reports Boston lands both Lindholm and Zadorov.
Okay. I want to see the money, Darren Dredger.
Show me the money, Dredger. Ian Cole, 1 year at $3.1 million in Utah.
It's good to see Utah making big moves.
Yeah, I just feel for those Coyotes fans. Like they're like, wait, you can actually acquire good players and not be shitty forever.
It is a real shame, honestly. Especially now that the owner has totally renounced his ownership to the team. I would imagine the chances that the Coyotes actually come back now are pretty slim to none.
And if they do, like, thankfully for the people that do actually like hockey in Arizona, it'll be by somebody that actually hopefully knows how to run an organization.
I don't think they could do much worse than the previous, so it'll probably be a step in the right direction. I'm seeing Brett Pesci to the Devils, 6 years, $5.5 million.
Pesci to New Jersey, 6 years at 5.5.
5.5.
Excellent. We are trying to keep our tracker at the bottom, our ticker updated. It is a manual process. It's not an API, so bear with us. There may be mistakes. Sources say Flames are closing in on a deal to bring Jake Bean home. Sounds like a 2-year deal, just under $2 million per. I got to get that Cole deal in my list. What is Utah's acronym? UTA?
UTA, probably.
Urinary tract agitation.
Oh, God. Oh, Lord.
All right. Any other deets come out?
I don't know if you saw this. It's from earlier, but Sam Carrick going to the Rangers on a 3-year, $1 million AAV deal.
Sam Carrick to which team? Sorry, New York Rangers. What's the figures again?
$3 million total, so one per year.
All right, so 3 years at $1 million per. Nashville has successfully landed Stamkos, Marchessault, and Brady Shea.
Wow.
7 times 7.
Wow. That's the type of free agency that just kind of puts your franchise in a different trajectory. Yeah, Berge, that's exactly what I'm looking for, is dollars and cents to see what they're signed for.
Let's go Zadorov and Lindholm. Yeah. Army, I'm pissed. I'm at work. I need the numbers on the Bruins guys right now. Berge is amped. David Perron closing in on a 2-year deal with the Ottawa Senators. Bob McKenzie says the Elias Lindholm deal in Boston should be around 7 times 7.7. So they got Lindholm for less than 8, which I am okay with. That is not bad. It was much less than I was kind of afraid of.
Yeah, I was afraid to see, on high 8, 9 coming out of free agency. 7.7 is not bad. Yeah.
Blackhawks are also signing Laurent Brossoit as their goaltender.
Okay.
No terms out yet.
Very solid backup goalie.
David Perron, his deal will be $4 million AAV, which I think is fair for that veteran. Not something I would want to sign, but for anyone to play. Oh, he's playing with the Senators. Perron to the Senators.
Perron good for him, honestly. That's
2 times
at 35
4.
years old. That's at 36 now, actually. Wow. I mean, he'll fit nicely on there, as like good third liner, bad second liner.
Elias Lindholm signs a 7-year deal with the Bruins, carrying a $7.75 million AAV.
7.75. I'm honestly really happy with that. That is, I think, by the end of that deal, we're going to be really, really happy with that cap. If the cap goes up another 5-10 mil over the next couple of years, I mean, that's second line center money, really.
Victor Arvidsson to Edmonton.
Oh wow. He's going to blow up, I bet. Have a huge year, I bet, in Edmonton if he plays with McDavid or Draisaitl.
Yeah, and he also, I've heard rumors that they were Ekholm had a great relationship with Arvidsson, and they played together in Nashville. So it was a big reason why Arvidsson was interested in going and playing for the Oilers.
Makes a lot of sense.
Brossois gets a 2-year deal at the Blackhawks for $3.3 million. Chicago's doing a lot of shopping today.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, good for them, though. I think they're just trying to spark that rebuild, be a little bit better. They have their centerpiece, obviously, so. That Brady Shea contract is 7x7 for Nashville.
Yep. I love how people are overreacting about the Lindholm deal. Like, that's not a bad deal.
I mean
ideally
Bruins
you
fans.
pay him. Ideally you pay him less, but it's unrestricted free agency, and he is the top center available. And the Bruins' biggest area of need is center. So cap's going up, guys. Like Blake said, in 3-4 years, that's going to look like a bargain. Especially, I mean, there's already rumors that the cap's going up by at least $5 million next year.
Yeah, I think in a couple of years we're going to be really, really happy with that deal. Sure, is it like a slight overpay? Maybe. I mean, maybe by like $750K. I think he deserves $7 million. Yeah, I mean, very, very solid two-way center, easily a second line center. I mean, easily steps in and becomes the best center for the Bruins by probably a wide margin. I know he didn't have a great year in Calgary and Vancouver last year, but I don't know. You put anyone next to Pastrnak, and I think their numbers will be inflated.
So I'm going to change the ticker. We'll go back to the other stuff around the league, but we're going to keep it Boston Bruins focused for right now. So the big news is that the Boston Bruins have agreed to terms with center Elias Lindholm with a 7-year deal at 7.75. Senators have signed forward Noah Gregor from the Leafs on a 1-year deal at $850K. There's that Stolarz deal you were talking about. Sounds like the Vancouver Canucks are adding defenseman Derek Forbort.
Oh, interesting. It's good to see him, get a deal at least. I mean, I was kind of worried for him that he might not even be in the NHL going forward with his injury history.
Yeah, Elias Lindholm is not over 30, which is why I'm somewhat okay with that contract. You can always buy him out at the later years if you need to as well. He's 29 years old, so this will keep him signed through 36. Which some players play very well into their mid-30s.
Definitely. And
Victor Arvidsson. Go ahead, sorry.
Ideally, in 3 or 4 or 5 years, or even less, hopefully, Lindholm's gonna be your second line center anyways. He's not gonna be your number one center in Boston if I'm sure that's what Sweeney would like. That's what Bruins fans would like. So even if he falls off a tiny bit, towards the end of that contract. It's going to be fine when we have Dean Letourneau putting up 90 points a year for us. It's a first line center.
Brandon Dillon in New Jersey, 3 years at $4 million per. It's a lot of money for Dillon.
Not surprising, though. I think that's probably
Nikita Zadorov, Boston, 6 years at $5 million per.
Man.
It's a lot of money for Zadorov.
I'm not sure I love it. I think that's a lot of money for Zadorov. I think he brings a lot of what the Bruins need. And he's going to, like, the Bruins fans are going to love him in Boston. He's big, mean, going to remind them of Chara, in the way he plays. But at $5 million, I just don't know. I think it's a lot for a guy that's realistically going to play most of the minutes 5-on-5 on your third pairing.
Yeah.
He is going to be a beast on the penalty kill, of course. But man, I think 5 is a lot.
Well, let's bring in one of our guests for today's stream. Guest of the show, friend of the show. We've had him on before here on the Two Pad Stack. Welcome in Shukri Wrights. How you doing, Shuk?
Good evening, gentlemen. How's everybody doing? Overall, I'm good. But I am not gonna lie, I am actually thoroughly very annoyed. But how are you guys doing today?
Good, man. It's a heck of a day to break down some hockey news.
Yeah, tell me about it.
No, I can tell how you're feeling about the two Bruins signings already.
The way I feel right now is it's not fake, it's not contrived. My problem is the numbers. That's my biggest problem. I don't mind Elias Lindholm. I actually like him, the player. Yes, you are going to have to pay for talent. But at that number, I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. Not at that number. 7.75 AAV. I have my concerns, but my problem isn't the problem. My problem isn't with the player, Elias Lindholm. I know what he's done when he was in Calgary, what he was able to do with Vancouver last season. I know the kind of offensive player that he is. I'm not concerned about that. It's the number. Zadorov. Why the hell are we paying $5 million per year for 6 years for, in my opinion, what's going to be your third pairing defenseman? Why? For that kind of money? What
I
does that make?
I don't see Zadorov as a third pair guy. I see Zadorov as a second pair guy, maybe even playing alongside Charlie McAvoy with some shutdown situations.
In some shutdown situations, sure, but I think he's a third pairing guy.
But I agree. I mean, that's the crappy thing right now is, I mean, it's free agency. You're going to be paying through the nose on players that you need.
Over payday. Yeah,
exactly. Over payday. So for those of you that are listening in, 2 official signings, not official through the Bruins Twitter account, but people that know what they're talking about. Yeah, the news has been broken. Nikita Zadorov will be signing a 6-year deal at $5 million per season, and Elias Lindholm will be playing for the Boston Bruins with a 7-year deal at $7.75 million. So suddenly, with those 2 contracts settled for the Boston Bruins, the vast majority of their work's going to be done today. There's only about roughly $13 million in cap space remaining for the Boston Bruins, and they still need to sign Jeremy Swayman.
And they also I still think they still need to get 1 or 2 wingers to help bolster this offense, because we saw in the Stanley Cup playoffs that this offense dried up at the worst inopportune time against the Florida Panthers. So yeah, they still need to pay Jeremy Swayman, but I think they still could use one or two wingers left. Like that's whatever that's available on the free agent market.
Mhm.
But I was kind of in like with the idea of maybe looking to Jonathan Marshall, so a player like
Yeah.
him, for example. Like so far, I mean, obviously that's not going to happen now. I was on this very podcast last September saying the Bruins should in fact be in on Steven Stamkos. I said it, and I said it on this podcast last September, and it's there. In which that when the rumblings became very loud in Tampa Bay that Steven Stamkos and the Bolts still had not agreed to a new contract and that he was going to be entering free agency after this season that just ended. I
Yeah.
said at the time last September, they need to be on Steven Stamkos. And right now it looks like a keyword looks like he might end up going to Nashville, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. So I think the Bruins, yeah, in terms of the signings, yeah, they got who they wanted. I'm not in love with the term. The
Yeah.
term, especially for Zadorov. 6 years. The reason why I have my concerns is because yes, he's a big body on the blue line. And I have been among those who have been saying the Bruins need to get bigger along the blue line. They did. I'll give them that credit. But here's the other part of it too. In the games that I watched Zadorov play, he has made himself an easy target in terms of taking dumb penalties. If you go and look into Zadorov in terms of being among the most penalized defensemen in the league, he's up there. He's actually up there. I encourage everybody to go look into it. So that does worry me. Yeah, he puts himself in bad spots at times. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this Ace and Curtis as well.
125 penalty minutes last year, by the way.
Yeah.
Not
does
an
that worry
insignificant
you?
amount.
Yeah, it is. That worries me. I know I'm crazy at times, but I'm like, that's the one area that I am concerned about.
Yeah, I do think that the Bruins PK at times was suspect, and they had some problems keeping the puck out of the net there. And bringing in a guy like Zadorov can put them in a little bit of a compromised position in that place. But I also really love the snarl that a guy like that can bring, because it's going to make players like Dylan Cousins on the Florida Panthers think twice about being a friggin' asshat around Jeremy Swayman and around the crease. Because if Zadorov's willing to punch a guy in the face and go to the box for a double minor, people are going to think twice about maybe doing some of that stuff. So it's one of those like risk assessments you have to do as a general manager in the NHL, right? You know, is the benefit, the mitigation of ass hattery worth the risk of the extra penalty minutes? We do have some comments in the chat here. I'm going to throw them up here. We'll talk about it a little bit. Let's go ahead and grab this one. Bonded Lock Service. So appreciate your corporate comments here, my friend. You'll like him when he's crushing people. I'm assuming that's Zadorov and not Elias Lindholm.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to that physicality.
Oh man.
Yeah, I mean, I think Zadorov as a player, the Bruins fans are going to love him. I mean, I think he brings exactly what you need on the back end. He brings the exact opposite of what a guy like Matt Grzelcyk brings, who we're basically replacing now in the Bruins top six. But I mean, I'm with Shukri. 5, it's too much money. I mean,
that's my angst, Curtis. I want Bruin fans, and clip this, Ace, if you will, Ace and Curtis. That's my concern, is the term. My problem isn't necessarily the player. I don't have a problem with Zadorov. I like Zadorov's game, but again, like I said, penalty minutes, that concerns me. For a team that has been penalized, especially on the PK, far too many times this season for my liking. And then you bring him in for this term. Yeah, it concerns me, but his snarl, his ability to deter opponents like idiots like Kachuk, who wants to take liberties against David Pastrnak, for crying out loud, or Tyler Bertuzzi or Max Domi, for example. Like, I get all of that, but can both things be true at the same time? You can like the player and what he brings, but you can also be concerned for the things that, hey, there's this aspect you got to look at as well.
Yeah.
So they're not mutually exclusive.
My brother actually chimes in here. Zadorov for only 1.3 mil more than what Grizzly had last year. Much better and will play up and down the lineup, especially with injuries. And I do think that, we talked about it a little bit earlier before Shukri joined us, with the cap continuing to go up, the dollar figure is not going to be that much of a concern, 2 or 3 years into this deal. Like what Shukri said, the issue is the term. Are we going to have to buy him out at the end of this contract? Is he still going to be able to play at that speed at the NHL level? The NHL is not getting slower, guys. It is getting younger and faster every single year. And when you have a player like Nikita Zadorov, that man has to work on his skating hard every offseason in order to make sure he can keep up with the competition.
Massively, and especially when you look at the prospects that just got drafted into the NHL just a couple of days ago. And I'm talking about guys like Caden Lynch. I'm talking about Tija Ginla. I'm talking about Macklin Celebrini. This ain't slew foot skaters we're talking about. We're talking about guys that are coming into the league that obviously got skill, but they also got speed. And
Jake DeBrusk just signed a deal.
Where did he just sign?
Jake DeBrusk, 7 years, $5.5 million with the Vancouver Canucks.
I'm not even mad about DeBrusk being gone. I'm not. I'm truly not. This is I'm not mad about DeBrusk being gone at all. I'm really not. I'm just like
So let's take this one step further back. We should have just traded with the Canucks. Because now they have Forbert and DeBrusk, and we have Lindholm and Zadorov.
You bring a great point, but honestly, for those that are watching and are going to be chiming in the comments, what I'm most angry about today, and why I'm in a mood that I'm in, and I've gotten into the last hour, is because of the fact that Don Sweeney has been literally sitting on his ass, and the fact that we've had a month and a half, and Jeremy Swayman is still not signed. That actually pisses me. It should piss you off, because the question becomes, what was the list of priorities for the Boston Bruins going into the offseason? We knew that the Bruins had a list of priorities of areas that they needed to address. Sure, I'll give you that. But in my opinion, the number one priority should have been re-sign Jeremy Swayman, figure out a number that works. And with the money that's already been spent, and you mentioned the amount of money that's left in the cap, in terms of Jeremy Swayman, what is this contract going to look like? And how long is this going to continue to drag out on? Because that's the point where I'm actually most angriest about today, is that we've got to the first day of free agency, and this contract is still not done yet. Because let's be honest, the Bruins and Swayman, they do not want to go back to arbitration again, because we saw how that played out last summer. It did not go well. Like, what are we doing here?
So got another comment here from somebody I recognize from HF Board. So thanks for popping in. Fenian24 says, Zadorov, 6 fights, 1 misconduct, 1 match, 1 game misconduct for 60 minutes. I can live with the rest of the minutes. It's a going rate for a top 4 defenseman, which he will be. The dollars, I agree. Just once again, we're talking about the term. That's a little scary. But hey, Don Sweeney
has enough term.
Don Sweeney's probably okay signing that, because the way he looks at it is, hey, I probably am not even going to be GMing here in 5 years. I'll probably be gone.
I mean, that is legitimately probably true. I think that's a viewpoint that, speaking to the penalty minutes, I've actually been looking at it. I totally agree with that. If you actually compare, so the rest of his career minutes are actually pretty low. Like the year before, 80, 77, 36, 65, 75. And if we look at this other player that we may all know named Zdeno Chara, classic mean streak defenseman for the Bruins, averaged in about the 60s to 80s range throughout his career as well. So I think the numbers that Zadorov actually, I think it's inflated this year, like that commenter pointed out. So I'm okay with the rest of it. I think it comes with a mean streak defenseman like Zadorov, who's big and buries people like we love seeing. But I agree. The term's bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
One thing we
and
haven't
that's
really talked much about with
yeah.
Lindholm, though, and I want to get your guys' take on this, is
Sure.
that I really have had Lindholm circled for a while because he plays a game that has been missing from the Boston Bruins for a while. And I'm not saying he's like Patrice Bergeron. He's nowhere
He
close. He can't
wins
hold Patrice
face-offs.
Bergeron's jock, but he plays really sound defensive hockey. And
Mhm.
he can allow players like David Pastrnak and Pavel Zacha to be a little bit more loose and creative offensively. So I'm really interested. I do think that that'll probably be the top line for the Boston Bruins this year. Zacha on the wing, Elias Lindholm at center, and Pasta on the wing, and they'll probably be able to create a lot of good stuff. Blix, you got any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I totally agree. Like Lindholm defensively is probably as close to as you're going to get in today's NHL. That isn't a truly elite two-way center. He's kind of on the cusp of that. He's probably in the next tier of two-way centers.
Mhm.
And that does allow, I mean, obviously David Pastrnak flourished under playing with David Krejci and Patrice Bergeron, two of, I would call, elite two-way centers, because it does allow him to generate more space and not worry about the defensive game as much. And you also bring in the point where, comparatively to like someone like Pavel Zacha, Pavel Zacha and whoever was on their other wing didn't necessarily generate the needed defensive acumen from the other team, right? You could pretty much just focus on David Pastrnak and shut down that line for the most part. You're kind of like, you're good if Zacha and the other winger kind of do their own thing and try to get away with stuff like, okay, we shut down Pastrnak, this
Mhm.
line's going to be mostly neutralized. Whereas Lindholm is a guy that you bring in and he's going to garner a lot more defensive interest. And Zacha being the third best forward on that line is a much better situation than having like Danton Heinen tacking
Mhm.
along with those two, I guess.
I like that point. Yeah. I can't hear Ace at all. You're muted.
Oh yeah, Ace, you're muted.
So I'm going to throw it over to you in a second, Shukri, but more former
Yeah.
Bruins news just came through.
Yeah.
Danton Heinen is not going to be re-signing with the Boston Bruins. He is going with Jake DeBrusk over to Vancouver on a 2-year deal at $2.25 million.
Huh.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah, very.
Shukri,
Wow. Yeah, what's
I
up?
want to know your thoughts on the Lindholm situation here and where you really kind of think that he's going to fit in for the Boston Bruins.
Top 6, obviously, but I would also go as far as to say, like, I like the signing a lot. I do. My concern, and maybe it was just me being a rather, for lack of a better term, bitchy, was like the amount of money, but just allowing myself to simmer down a little bit and just take a step back. When you talk about a player like who is as big of a name and a big of a player, that's going to be a top 6 forward for your team, the contract is not as bad as I thought it was, because I just remembered that Jake Gunsel just signed with Tampa Bay for what 7 years, 9 million, something around that number. So I'm like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, hold up. And again, this is the other part of it is like, initially I was pissed off, but now I was like, wait a minute, let me take a step back and just look at this for a moment. Gunsel just signed for what, 9 million per. Lindholm just signed for 7.75 million per. This is not bad. Not as bad as I thought it would be. I like the player a lot. This is a consistent 29, 30 goal scorer. And you talked about how, like, defensively, like, obviously no one is going to be Patrice Bergeron. That's new. We're never going to see a player like Bergeron's
Right.
again. But Lindholm, what I like about him is that he, like, defensively he makes sound plays. He obviously he's obviously a goal scorer, but he can also win you draws especially at times and whatnot. So I think that overall I like the player. I really do, and I'm curious to see if what you talked about, if it's going to be Zacha and Pastrnak that's going to be flanking him on the wings on the top line for this upcoming season. I'm with the idea, but this also kind of tells me why I do think they need to get at least one more winger, like that could at
Yeah, I
least give me,
agree.
I that, because I feel like that first line could use a little bit more punch than Zaka. And that's not a shot at Zaka at all. But Zaka is better suited on that second line, in my opinion. Like, get you another winger that you could that can give you top line. But for right now, if you at the season started tomorrow, if you had told me that Zaka was going your top line left winger, sure, okay, I'll live with that. But you can get at least one more winger, in my opinion.
Yeah, I
One
think
more.
so too. And the reason why I speculate Zaka to be on the top line is just I think he's got really good chemistry with David Pastrnak.
He does.
And I want to try to keep those two guys together, let them just continue to grow that chemistry between the two of them. They're going to be here a long time. So, another thing that before we move off of the topic of the Elias Lindholm deal, something that also kind of stuck out to me is that last year the Bruins really had a hard time closing out a game. They gave up a lot of goals late, let games slip to overtime. And it's because we really didn't have a center we could reliably throw out there in pivotal defensive zone faceoffs. And now we have Elias Lindholm. Every time there's a faceoff in the defensive zone with less than a minute, Lindholm's going to go over the boards. He's going to be tapped on the shoulder, and he's probably going to go out there with Charlie Coyle on the wing just in case he gets tossed out of the dot. Instead of having Charlie Coyle out there for every pivotal drop, we have somebody that we can reasonably rely on now. So really
to win the
excited for
faceoff.
Yeah, and dump it out, clear the
because
zone.
I have, as the kids like to say, we have receipts. Go check my Twitter. I have blasted this team at times in the season where like the Bruins were like getting destroyed in the faceoff circle. You need to address that. And hey, if Lindholm's going to at least help with that, then so be it. I'm willing to live with that. So for me, as far as like Lindholm is concerned, I'm excited to see how he meshes chemistry-wise with Pastrnak on that top line. But I am also going to make this point because I'm not sure if you guys touched on it already, but I am curious to see how Matthew Patras will look coming off the injury. He's at development camp right now at Warrior Ice. I'm curious to see how he'll look in his second year in the league. You know, coming back from injury, he looks healthy and from what I've been reading and whatnot. So I just think that right now this is what it currently stands in terms of your center group: Lindholm, Coyle, Patras, Kastelik being your fourth line center.
Yep,
that's what it looks like right now.
And so, I'm fine with that center depth suddenly.
I don't have an issue at all. The point I was making, in terms of Patras is, I wonder how is he going to look in year 2. He's come back from injury. He's healthy now, and as well as like, how far along has he? Will he continue to develop, especially like during this summer, and especially once training camp begins and so forth? That I'm curious about in terms of the center group. Patras, that's the number one question mark I would have is how will he look? How far along has he continued to grow in his role and in his game as well?
Yeah, I agree. And the other thing is too, is that, you mentioned we need to add another winger. There is still about $3 million that I'd say the Bruins can comfortably play with right now in free agency, and they can grab a middle six winger. And, Darren Dredger did report earlier today that Boston was one of the teams that are interested in Jonathan Drouin. And that deal has not yet been announced whether he goes anywhere. So it'll be interesting to see what the Bruins do with that extra little bit of cap space. But I'm right there with you, Shukri. I really want the Bruins to add another middle six winger in order to really round out this roster.
Like, they need it in the worst way, because I mean, I hate to break it to you, but it looks like Tampa Bay, they just might be back, even though they've lost Steven Stamkos, but they might be back with a brand new looking big three down in Tampa Bay. And I'm talking about Guntel, Kucherov, and Braden Point. And not to forget about Brandon Hagel as well, and so forth. And then you look at and you also look at like teams like Carolina, for example, that I've made some moves. Like, although mostly like the biggest news so far from what I saw was that they extended Jacob Slavin, but I expect them to be contenders again in the East. But I am curious to see what the Bruins do in terms of adding another winger, because I cannot emphasize enough, you need that secondary scoring, because I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but Florida's not going anywhere. Like, Florida, they just re-upped Sam Reinhart for 8 years.
Yeah.
And I mean,
I will point out that Florida is losing out on Montour Montour is no longer part of the
Fair.
Panthers. He was a big part of their cup-winning team. And then on the Tampa Bay side of things, they just dealt away Sergachev, who was one of their young stud defensemen. So, these are still going to be really good teams. And I do think that the Atlantic is still going to be probably the top team in the National Hockey, or the top division, the most difficult division in the National Hockey League. But, the Bruins, if Lindholm and Zadorov can play their roles the way that the Bruins pro scouting staff think they do, they could very easily be fighting for the top spot in the division again. But news, we just mentioned Jonathan Drouin as a target for the Boston Bruins. Sounds like that's not going to be happening. Sounds like he is headed back to the Colorado Avalanche.
That's unfortunate.
You know what? I think that's why I'm like,
that's just unfortunate. I mean,
he's tragic, one of
the big guys who has put up a healthy amount of points in a season before that is left for wingers. I mean, I think the last big name that we're looking at that the Bruins could probably afford is maybe Jeff Skinner for that spot.
I would take Jeff Skinner in a heartbeat, Curtis. I don't know how do you feel about that? But I would.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the right amount of money, I think he could definitely bring the influx of like goal scoring ability they would need on that second line. Sitting next to Coyle and Marchand, I think I think that would be great, honestly. And I also don't think there's a lot of options anyways for the amount of money. Like Skinner's a guy that might be able to sign around $3 million.
Yeah.
And otherwise, I don't know if there's many to that caliber. Obviously, he's not the player he was, say, 3, 4, 5 years ago, but a player of that caliber who has done it and has scored 40 goals before, you're not going to find that elsewhere.
So let me pose you guys this question. Right now, you look at the blue line for the Bruins, and look, as of right now, obviously things can change with free agency now officially underway. Mason Lohrei, Charlie McAvoy, Hampus Lindholm, Brandon Carlo, Zadorov, Piqué. In your minds, do you think that's got to be one of the top defense core units in the league in your mind? Like, would you guys agree with that?
Bar none. Absolutely. Probably the top defense in the National Hockey League. Add in one of the top goaltenders in the league, and it's going to be hard to beat the Bruins offensively. Where the Bruins' biggest wild card right now is, can we put the puck in the net enough? Blix, what are your thoughts?
I totally agree. I mean, at worst, they're a top 3 decor in the league. They have the size now. They have the snarl. I mean, they added all the things that they really were missing. Not that they were really missing size in the past, but like now they really have a guy that like you're not going to F around with him, right? Like big, mean, and nasty, and will beat the crap out of you for no reason. And I also think like the other caveat to that is like Mason Lohrei is going to bring the added or the needed offense from the back end that they've kind of been missing a little bit ever since Krug left. We all, at least myself, have been hoping for like Grzelcyk to take that big step and maybe fill those shoes a little. Unfortunately, just never really happened. But I think Lohrei is a guy that can kind of take a little pressure off of McAvoy in that sense, and just let McAvoy kind of not try to do everything on the ice when he's on the ice. So yeah, I'm incredibly happy with this decor. I think the only thing that upsets me is just that Zadorov signs for 6 years, but ultimately your decor right now for the next 3 years is set, other than peak, potentially gone in 2 years. But yeah, I'm very happy with the decor.
Yeah, so updated cap situation for the Boston Bruins with the Zadorov deal, with the Lindholm deal, the lack of Jeremy Swayman, $11.21 million. And right now we definitely need somebody to plug in probably on that second line right wing slot. So I would say, like we talked about earlier between me and Blix, that Swayman deal is going to come probably between 8 and 9. So that gives the Bruins $2.2 million in order to go out and grab another forward. And I could see them probably spinning, throwing the dice a little bit on maybe like a little bit of a reclamation project
Yeah.
forward. Somebody that, maybe wasn't, issued a qualifying offer from another club, but has some skill. So I don't have any names in mind. I'm just spitballing here, but that seems like a good opportunity for them to find somebody for that second line wing slot.
Guys, I'm not sure if you guys are like, silly question if it is, and pardon me, not sure if you guys are like big Celtic fans, but just breaking news. Apparently, Derek White and the Celtics they just agreed to a new contract extension, 4 years, 125.9 million. That just broke literally just a few moments ago. Just want to put
Nice.
that in there real quick.
Yeah,
That's
thanks
awesome.
for that. I think it's very selfish of Derek White to try to do this during NHL free agency.
I fucking love Derek White. I'm actually really
funny.
happy that not only that he for the contract, but he got his money and deservedly. So hell yeah. So but no, like back to what we're talking about hockey wise. But just wanted to throw that in there real quick. I just broke like a few moments.
No worries. That's great. Yeah, happy for the Celtics fans for sure. I wish I could count myself among them, but not a basketball guy. But it seems like the signings are all kind of slowing down a little bit. Not as many announcements coming through. But the thing that's interesting to me is that usually when the Bruins are done with their business, that's when all the signing posts go live. And there are teams out there that are posting official signings, like the Jake DeBrusk one was officially posted by the Canucks. So that leads me to believe that the Bruins are not done today. So they are probably going to be signing some additional names. So keep your eyes open on that.
Yeah, I would say big names left right now in free agency are Jeff Skinner, at least for wingers, anyways. Cam Atkinson, Adam Henrique, although more of a center, but has played some left wing. Jacob Verana, Tyler Johnson still out there. Tarasenko still out there. Kevin LeBanc, although I didn't really have a great year last year, but so there's definitely some like
Anthony Duclair.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm not against that at all. Duclair is hell yeah.
Jack Roslovic.
Yep. There's a lot of talent out there still. And then you still can also keep your eye on and maintain, attention on the Shane Pinto situation in Ottawa, where he has reportedly requested a trade, and he's a young center. So Fenian 24, Bruins have always liked Kevin LeBanc, ex of San Jose. Could be a very cheap ad. I could see that. Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks for chiming in, Fenian. Bonded Lock Service says, please no to Atkinson.
By the way, he just had his final year of this contract with the Philadelphia Flyers bought out. Nah.
1 year at $2.5 million for Drouin, which would have been right in that realm of what we would have been
what you were talking about.
So, but that's going to be going over to the Avalanche. Drouin and Nathan McKinnon played their minor hockey together, so I think that was probably a big factor for him to return and play for a contender in the Avalanche.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, Kevin LeBanc is a guy I definitely could see. I mean, he's had a few tough years in San Jose the last few years, but I mean, he's a guy who put up 56 points in his career, multiple 40-point seasons. So you never know. I mean, I wouldn't be too excited to play for the worst team in the NHL either. So maybe he comes to Boston and has kind of a career reclamation a little bit.
Interesting.
And the Bruins, according to Brian D. Felice of EI, he's saying that the Bruins still have $12.5 million, like post Lindholm, Zadorov, and that's obviously to sign Swayman. So now, if you had to do like gymnastic, like GM gymnastics here, to figuring out who could the Bruins get for like a good value, like that can provide like scoring punch. Now I know we talked about Anthony Duclair and a number of other players. I'm just thinking in terms of like availability, like players that maybe could provide a secondary offensive punch. Who else could it be that the Bruins could have their eyes on? Because a lot of the really good players, obviously they've already been signed. It's just now like bottom first tier now into the second tier of free agents that could still be like available and whatnot. So my question is, who, like, if you had maybe one or two players that you can pick from, like, who would you pick? Like, who would you go after at this point? Because I'm just gonna assume that Bruins, they're gonna ultimately pay Swayman $8 million. I'm just gonna let's make that assumption. Is $8 million is gone right there. So what you have left is maybe what, $4 million at that. Like who would you go
Yeah.
after?
Yeah, it's hard to say right now. I mean, there's so much. I think it's probably going to be a name that nobody really expects. It's going to come out of left field. Going to be some sort of castaway player, or an RFA that the other team can't come to terms with, and they just do like a swap or something.
Yeah.
Army says, "What about Sprong as a name?"
That is a
Dylan
name.
Sprong would be interesting. Brickwall35 says Don Sweeney is speed dialing Zach Ronaldo as we speak.
God,
Please
hell
no.
no. Stop, please. Don't you dare.
As long as we don't trade another third round pick for him.
Oh my gosh. Cap Friendly does have the Bruins signings posted, so projected cap space right now. And this has some players that are up on the NHL roster that probably won't be there, such as Vinny Lettieri, Patrick Brown, these types of guys. Also has Wotherspoon up, has the Bussy contract also up, but this is projecting 8.8 million cap space. So interesting. It'll be something to keep an eye on. Bonded Lock Service, thanks again for your expertise in lock picking. He says Sweeney will find a surprise.
The name that I really wanted, which we weren't going to get, was Matt Duchene.
Yeah.
But he just re-signed in Dallas for 1 year, $3 million.
Yeah. I know. I never thought he was going to come up north. He's a good old boy. He likes the South. He likes to play country music. Nashville guy, Dallas guy, which is funny because he's Canadian. So
hey, the Canadian North, I think, has a lot of similarities with the American South.
Oh yeah, man! Like Alberta, that is Texas of the North for sure.
Yeah.
Thomas Noshek signs with the Florida Panthers.
Oh, interesting.
I believe there was mutual interest between DeBrusk and the Oilers, but they would have had to move significant money to make it work. Matt Poitras says his recovery from shoulder surgery has gone well. He's shooting and has a full range of motion. He says he's put on 8 to 9 pounds with more strength to come.
Great to hear.
Like that.
Excellent. Oh, yeah.
You know what? A name that we haven't talked about. Talk about in-house additions. Could Fabian Lysell take that spot on the second line and fill the need that they need at a measly $950K?
I think so. I would like to have more of a NHL established player there, just in case it doesn't happen. I mean, because like we said, sure, technically looking at the dollars and cents, we have about $3 to $4 million to play with right now. But the Bruins can also waive Jonas Corposalo, and if he's not picked up, bury him in Providence and open up another $1 million in cap space. You're not able to wipe off his whole entire cap hit, but you can waive 33% and get that off of the book. So open up another $1 million to play with here in free agency.
You do need to pull up a backup goalie in that case, though. So Bussy would probably take up another 800 of that $1 million, but it adds a little bit of money, right? So I mean, there's a lot of options. Again, like wingers are, I don't want to say dime a dozen, but they're a lot more available. I mean, even like Warren Fogle is a name you could look at.
He just signed somewhere.
Oh, well, just kidding.
Warren Fogle. Let me grab my notifications. Kevin Stenlund 2 in Utah. Where did I see Fogle sign? Friggin' news is flying by.
They just announced a term for DeBrusk's contract with the with the Canucks, 7 years, $38.5 million.
Kings are signing Warren Fogle.
Okay.
3 years in the mid-3 range. So kind of in that same financial range that we were talking about.
Yeah. There's a bunch of players in that realm that'll command a similar number.
UNH product, Warren Fogle, by the way.
Ah.
They only spent a year there, maybe a year and a half, but interesting.
Wow.
Michael Amadia, 3-year deal at the Ottawa Senators.
Stamkos' new deal, 4 years, $32 million with Nashville. The deal hasn't been announced yet, but Stamkos was talking about it on TSN just moments ago.
Yeah. Forbert gets a 1-year deal at $1.5 million with the Vancouver Canucks. So Vancouver has 3 former Bruins from last year that they've signed today. Forbert, DeBrusk, and Heinen. And we took 2 of their guys. It's so funny how that works.
It's funny how it all comes together. Let's see.
Looks like Marchessault's on TSN right now talking about his deal with the Predators. Preds have to be the biggest player today, with signing Stamkos, Marchessault, Brady Shea. One name we haven't seen sign yet, Chandler Stevenson.
Could the Bruins sign him?
I don't think they have the money to sign him, but
they would have to.
I mean, the only way I could see them actually making a run at him is if they somehow moved the Korpisalo contract, which I don't see happening.
Yeah, I don't.
You'd have to staple a draft pick to get rid of it.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's not. I really don't think it's that atrocious of a contract now. I think the Bruins were probably going to spend around $2 to $2.5 million on a backup goalie anyways in free agency. So I don't think they're like losing out on a lot of money there, but
yeah,
that's probably the only way you could swing it for Stevenson.
Saw a good list that was just put out on Twitter. Best forwards left in the marketplace: Jeff Skinner, Adam Henrique, Vladimir Tarasenko, Anthony Duclair, Chandler Stevenson, Daniel Sprong, Max Pacioretty, and Tomas
Tarasenko still available?
Tarasenko is still available.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, there's plenty of names that, like, I think all of those names would fit in a role on the second line there. Obviously, some of them you'd want more than others. Like if we swung Tarasenko for $3 million, that would be crazy.
Yeah.
But I think all of those names we'd be happy with, I guess,
Yeah. I'm going to step away real quick, guys. I'm going to throw you 2 on just the thing here. I'll be right back, and then we'll break down some more stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I thinking more. I really honestly think the Lindholm. I know your initial reaction, and it kind of changed the tune a little bit.
It did.
Yeah. The Lindholm. If you think about it, so Jake DeBrusk only cost $2 million less, or I guess you could say Lindholm only cost $2.25 million more than DeBrusk, and I think honestly he's going to bring a lot more of what the Bruins need going forward at the center position. Right. And honestly, I think he probably provides more offense than DeBrusk does.
He does. And as you were saying that, Curtis, I'm glad you pointed that out. I was thinking with Lindholm, you won't have to worry about the inconsistencies that you had to worry about with DeBrusk. And I've gotten on his ass over the last couple of years about that on Twitter. Like he's been like so damn inconsistent. So with Lindholm, you're getting a hell of a whole lot more. As you mentioned, a little more than $2 million per year, like expensive, but yeah, that trade-off is 100% worth it for a player like Lindholm. So my tune earlier wasn't anti-Elias Lindholm. I like the player. My concern was the term, but after like just taking a step back and just thinking about it, I was like, wait a minute, you know what? Yeah, this is really not bad, but this is actually, I like the player a lot. And I think it's gonna pay off handsomely almost immediately, if you ask me. But absolutely, like no doubt in my mind that this is like this is an interesting day. I think on one part there are people that are concerned. Like I was concerned about the term, but I don't think the player in itself like is like the issue here. The term is what I'm concerned about, but especially for Sidorov. Like, but I think like the intangibles that he brings to the table, yes. But I did have my concerns, but the term is what I'm looking at that has me concerned. Is that contract going to age out well, let's say in about 3-4 years from now? Like, I mean, but we'll see. Well, for right now, is it what the Bruins need? Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm much more concerned with the Zadorov term than the
Yeah.
Lindholm term. I think like with Lindholm in 3 to 4 years, you're probably hoping he's not your first line center anymore anyways.
Mhm.
Hopefully like, maybe Dean Letourneau stepping in, being our first line center or something, but so I'm less concerned with the Lindholm. But I think Zadorov, a guy who's already not fleet of foot, he's 6'6",
Mhm.
shows, he for what he brings, his deficiencies are obviously like defending the rush, kind of dealing with dump-ins and can't think of the word now, but basically the things that I guess Grizzlick is good at,
Yeah.
retrieving puck retrievals,
Yeah.
and breaking the puck out. So we'll see how it goes over the 6 years. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to say that Zadorov gets bought out, 3 or 4 years into the contract. But we'll see. I mean, I'm like you said, I'm really happy with the players. I think they fit the Bruins' needs. I
Yeah.
think the Bruins are going to be a better team going forward,
I agree.
especially once they sign, Jeff Skinner for $3 million a year. So we'll see. We'll see.
What do you mean when they signed? Did I miss something while I was away?
No,
No, you didn't. Yeah, you did.
Jesus. I'm like, what?
I'm just trying to get you there.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. But
And Bonded Lock Service asked, I think he asked about Dylan. I think Brendan Dillon did sign.
Yes. Yeah. Dylan signed I think he's with the Devils. $4 million per season. I think it was 3 years.
3 years. I think that's right too.
Yeah, 3 years at $4 million per. Yep.
And I do agree. I mean, you don't want to go into the corners with I'm not going to call him Z, but maybe Little
Yeah.
Z or something.
Zaddy Daddy. That's what we're gonna call
Zaddy
him.
Daddy. There you
I'll
go.
call him I'll call him oh man. Nick Z. I don't know if that even makes sense. But Big Z is absolutely that's not even
No.
that's
Nope.
that's like a
No.
worldwide decision. Like, no, there's truly only one Big Z. Period. That's not even like up for like, hey, let's just know. Like, no, there's only one Big Z. We all know who that is. So Zadorov is gonna have to come up. Like, what about North Z?
I mean, it'd be one thing if he was like taller than Chara, but like he's literally not. I mean,
No.
obviously he's a big dude, but
And like
I
Big
think
Z-
Little Z,
Mini
Yeah,
Z,
like-
Mini Z, like Mini
Yeah,
Me,
something like
Mini
that.
Z.
Mini Z.
like
It's something ironic. I always like the self-depreciating nicknames, like
Mhm.
Mini Me, Mini Z, Little Z. I don't know.
Yeah.
That'd be funny because he's still 6'5".
Right. Yeah, he's a big dude, obviously, right?
Oh,
Which
yeah.
I saw a tweet that went out there, and it's really fascinating, like seeing the way the Bruins blue line has changed, and just the size. Like I don't think the Bruins have anybody smaller than 6'2" on their blue line now.
Right. And like 5 years ago, 6 years ago,
We
I
were,
mean,
we were
Krug and
screaming.
Grizzlick.
Grizzlick was there. Yeah, I mean,
We were like we basically had gnomes on the ice, for God's sakes.
we had
Like,
Clifton, like
yeah, gnomes, like little men. Like, no disrespect to them at all, but they were like little men on the
Oh,
ice. Get pushed around like in the freaking cup final against St. Louis.
There are rumors right now, and it's hard to really speculate on this too much due to the players assistance program. but there's some speculation going out there that the Montreal Canadiens are close to acquiring Patrick Laine from the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Ooh.
No, 100% speculation.
Yeah.
But
speaking of which, how about the home opener? Boston, Montreal.
Well, did you see that Boston's going to be in Florida for the 8th?
Yeah,
for
I
the
was
cup raising
actually
ceremony?
wondering, is that the season opener for the Bruins? Because I mean, we obviously know that's going to be the NHL the cup raising banner game for the NHL, like for Florida. But is that also the season opener as well? I like to think so.
I think so too. Yeah, because you know the cup banner raising ceremony is usually on the
It's
first
usually like the
night
first
of
or
the
the second
season.
game. Usually, but it's usually that the same night that the NHL has like the triple header, like they've had since they've got the new TV deal, where they have like the 5:30 game, then the 8 o'clock game, and then the 10:30 game. Like, so
Yeah.
I would think probably be the 8 o'clock game.
So
Most
there
likely,
is
I would
some
imagine.
Bruins news that just came through, guys.
What's up?
Ty Anderson says Bruins with about 10.4 mil in cap space after the Zadorov and Lindholm signings, and with Swayman unsigned. This assumes that the 12th forward spot is occupied by a league minimum contract, currently by Vinny Lettieri. The Bees have multiple depth signings around that price coming, per sources.
Interesting.
So instead of going for one name for $3 million, it sounds like they're opting to do a few of those low money contracts, kind of like what they did last year with JVR and such. So and Danton Heinen. So it'll be interesting to see who they end up bringing in.
I don't mind that either, because what it does is it provides some competition. Hopefully they're signing someone who has at least somewhat of a track record, kind of like JVR, who was older but has played in a top 6, part of his career, earlier in his career.
Yeah.
But that provides competition where, like, if you sign someone for $3 million to play in that second line spot, then it kind of like for example, it says to Lysell, like, we're not going to put Lysell in that spot. We signed this guy to be here,
Right.
Whereas if you're signing guys more, in that $1 million range to compete for that spot, that's never a bad thing, I guess.
Brick asks, did we talk about Florida getting Noshik? We did.
Yeah.
One of my least favorite Bruins of all time, Tomasz Noshik. So I'm okay with it. Good fourth line center is going to win them some draws and blah blah blah. That's about all I want to talk about.
Also has some snarl in his game. Like watched a few of his games when he was with Ottawa, but still, I'm still not over the Allmark trade. The trade of Allmark didn't shock me in the slightest bit, because I've been consistently pointing this out for over a year now, where, and I said this last year right after the NHL awards for the Hockey News, that if they were going to move Allmark, now would be the time to do it. They obviously did, and they moved him now. But what angered me that night, that the news was announced the night of Game 7, which is now, can't believe, was like a week ago now. My anger was the return. Like we get Carpasalo, who was literally one of the worst goalies in the league, and I still, it just still doesn't sit right with me in that regard. But like, I don't know if any team is gonna want to like even pick him up, even if the Bruins would have put him on waivers. It's like, okay, like, so we have someone who historically has not been that good of a goaltender. And I saw someone say, like, let's see what goalie Bob does. I'm like, listen, I don't even think Bob Asinza can save him from his own self. I'm being honest. Like, I don't see it.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. Couple pieces of news. One that you're going to be interested in, Shukri, and it's NBA related. But we'll start with the Bruins related news. Matt Grzelcyk has signed a 1-year deal with the Pittsburgh Penguins for $2.75 million.
The Penguins confused the hell out of me. I'm sorry.
And then
I'm genuinely confused. And I'm going to say this real quick, because this has been a very puzzling offseason for the Pittsburgh Penguins, who, by the way, they're just coming off having just acquired Kevin Hayes from the St. Louis Blues. And that move, that confused me. Like, what? Like, why? You didn't get better You didn't get worse. But Kevin Hayes is not the player that he once was. There was a reason why he had a falling out when he was with the Philadelphia Flyers before he got traded to the St. Louis Blues. So yeah, that's another head scratcher. I don't get it. I really don't.
Yeah.
I don't get it at all.
Well, Dubas always he's one of those guys that always thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, and 90% of the time he's not that guy. NBA news: the Boston Celtics majority ownership group, led by Wyc Grousbeck, apologies if I butchered his name, is planning to make the franchise available for sale. So it could be a new ownership team coming in and taking over the Boston Celtics franchise.
No.
Wow, that's crazy.
Now, if only the Jacobs would. I'm just kidding.
What the?
But seriously, like, you win a title and you're like, yeah, we're worth a shit ton more money. Now come buy my team. Can you imagine?
I mean,
unbelievable.
Some would call that smart business, I guess. That's crazy, though.
This
live reaction from Shukri on the NBA news.
I hate you. Just won the NBA title. You're the most. Oh my. Why? And I gotta go in just a minute. But why? Why? I don't understand. Like,
the source on that is Waj ESPN, which is a very
like Agent Wojnarowski. Look, I'm stunned.
Yeah,
you literally just won the NBA title. This is one of the most valuable properties in all of sports, and you're the most popular owner in Boston right now. Why?
Wow.
As Cam says, the only good owner in Boston.
Yeah, he's correct.
Yeah, he is right.
Between Wyc Grousbeck, John Henry, Jeremy Jacobs, and Robert Kraft, Wyc is the best one right now. This is stunning because this is absolutely out of nowhere. No one could have foreseen this at all. So this is like shocking, and this is wow. Even my guy Saron Battle of the Sports Hub, he's like, WTF. Everybody, this was not. Wow.
Big Boston sports news. Crazy.
Wow.
That is wild.
Well, Shuk, I know that you said you got to get going, buddy. Really appreciate you joining here and breaking stuff down. We'd love to have you on again in the future, buddy. And any closing thoughts? And guys, also tune in. Shuk, share your socials. Make sure our listeners can find you on socials.
Thank you, my man. I appreciate. I enjoy being on with you guys. I can try to come back on before you guys log off. You said you guys would get logging off like 2:30 or 3 o'clock, right?
I mean, it all depends on how things are going. If things really slow down, we'll probably call it early. No need to keep on and rehashing the same stuff over and over. But I think we're definitely going to stay live until the Bruins announce their presser where they summarize the signings and everything. So I would say probably around 2:30, 3 o'clock, probably at the latest.
This is definitely. So I could try, no guarantees though. I can try to hop back on just quickly in case if anything like breaks, but you can follow me on Twitter /X at Shukri Writes. You can follow me on TikTok as well at Shukri Writes as well, and Instagram @SWritesRadio_. That's where you can find me on social media. And again, guys, thank you so much on what has been now an absolute earth-shattering day in Boston sports. First with the Bruins, but now with this major news that Wyc Grousbeck is now planning to sell the Boston Celtics. Yeah, this is truly stunning in every sense of the word.
Absolutely. Well, buddy, thanks again for joining, and we will we'll catch you around, and make sure you tune into Shukri's stuff. He does a lot of great Bruins content, and thanks again, man.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Great to see you, Shukri.
See you.
Wow, that's even that's more wild than just free agency.
The Zadorov deal.
Yeah, I mean, holy moly.
Brickwall says DeSmith to Dallas for only $1 million AAV. So a little goaltending news. Stefan Nason, however you want to say it, 3 years, $2.75 million per Elliot Friedman. just a selfish plug here, guys. 2-Pad Stack. We're a podcast here. We release episodes in the off season every 2 weeks, run by 2 goalies. Blix is a backup goalie that's filling in today. Third string. We called him up from the A. We cover the Bruins predominantly, but my co-host Eric Burgess is also a dad. We go through dad problems and family stuff, and we obviously are going to be talking a lot about the Boston Bruins. We're sponsored by SeatGeek, so if you're interested in acquiring some tickets for live events, sports, use promo code 2PadStackPod. You can save $10 off your first purchase with SeatGeek. And then additionally, we are also sponsored by a company called Iron and Steel, which is a hockey fashion lifestyle brand. Portion of every one of their sales goes toward making hockey more affordable for youth, which is really awesome. I'm actually wearing one of their shirts today. So you can see there, it says denied because I'm a fucking goalie. Oh, it's on the other side. Everything's backwards on my camera. So Iron and Steel threads right there. Really cool stuff. So check them out. You can use the code 2PadStack10 and you can save 10% off your purchase with Iron and Steel. Bonded lock services. Well, this is better than 2023's free agency. Well, yeah, we had no money last year. So Brickwall says, how will they differentiate the two Lindholms, nickname wise? That's a great question. Maybe I'll just go have my jersey that I bought for Hampus Lindholm, have the 27 removed and add whatever number Elias Lindholm's going to wear. Lindy, they're both going to turn around.
It'll be interesting to see what announcers will be doing. I mean, they're going to have to use their full names every time.
There goes Chandler Stevenson going to the Seattle Kraken on a 7-year deal. The Bruins are officially posting signings. Welcome to Boston, Elias Lindholm. Shout out to Mark Majewski, who is the graphics guy for the Boston Bruins. He is always putting out fire graphics. And they do have a new word mark. I don't know if you guys saw this when they announced that they were going back to I'm going to actually share my screen here. When they announced that they were going back to the OG jerseys, the Bruins released a new logo, just a word mark. So let me just share my screen. Apologies for it looking a little silly. So look at that graphic. That's beautiful. Schmexy. But that word mark right up here is what I was talking about. That has never been seen before. So that's something new from the Boston Bruins branding perspective. What else was I going to show? I thought I had another idea to look at. Yeah, here's the Chandler Stevenson deal. 7 years. So I imagine with the Bruins starting to put out socials that they probably are ready to announce some of those smaller depth options that are going to be coming through.
Yeah, that most likely means that they're just about done.
I'm going to take a quick look at their website and see if there's anything posted. Yeah, break Jim, and Jim. I got to catch up on the most recent Shoresy. Sean McDonough. Heard rumors that he's probably coming in to replace Jack Edwards, which I'm not entirely stoked about. Jack available to play right wing? I don't know. He probably can play hockey better than he can speak these days.
That sadly might be true.
Bruins officially just posted the Zadorov deal. Oh, I was going to the roster page. That's what I was doing. Yeah, they don't even have Lindholm listed on this yet. So I'm not going to get any hints from there. Yeah, I saw one tweet. Boston fans, sell the team. No, not that team.
Oh God. Did not understand the assignment.
The New York Islanders and the Anaheim Ducks are the only teams that haven't signed a player today. That's such a bad pick for Zadorov. I got to look at the graphic for Zadorov. Oh yeah, dude, he looks straight up like a brute, which I guess is probably accurate for him. Nikita Zadorov. It'll be fun watching him as a Bruin. We haven't had like a Russian in a while, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. The last one probably being like Koklachev. I mean,
yeah,
it has been a long, long time, and he was never really a Bruin, you know.
I mean, Merkulov last year briefly.
Oh, Merkulov. Yep, that's true.
Yeah. Sergei Samsonov's probably the most iconic one.
Definitely.
Zhamnov, yep, good point, bonded lock service. I had somebody on HF boards that was interested in joining us to chat, so I'm going to send them a link and see if they're able to join. Break down some of the signings and stuff. If anyone else is ever interested in joining these, feel free to just send me a DM and we can chat about it for sure. Chandler Stevenson, 7 years at $6.25 million in Seattle.
That's pretty fair.
Yeah.
I think that's a good number for Stevenson for sure. Oh, Orlov too. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Bruins
Dmitry
tonight,
Orlov.
yeah.
I don't know why I forgot about that. Thanks, Cam. Guess it wasn't very long. Happened pretty quickly. I liked Orlov's game, though. He was fun on the Bruins.
Definitely.
Wedgwood to Nashville per brick.
Probably would have been one of the guys the Bruins were looking at, I bet, if they didn't have Korpisalo.
Yeah. Oh my God, HF Boards is struggling today. There we go.
Bonded Lock Service asked if we'd rather Chandler over Lindholm, and I personally would say no.
No. Like, if we didn't get Lindholm, I'd be okay with Stevenson.
Yeah.
But like I said earlier, Stevenson's more of like an offensive play driver. Like, Lindholm is more of the two-way center that the Bruins really had a void that needed to be filled of.
Definitely. Yeah, I think Lindholm is definitely better in the two-way. I think, honestly, offensively, they're probably similar, with Stevenson maybe edging out a tiny bit, but not by much. Looks like Wedgwood signed at $1.5 million per Cam, I think.
Go to Discord. No. Yeah, big deal for Matt Bolesky.
I'd actually not like to think about that ever again.
Yeah, right. Never do that to me again. Chandler Stevenson. Yeah. I don't care. So I'm wanting to know what's coming through. Max Jones signs with the Boston Bruins.
Oh. Okay, so that's probably one of our I'm sure it's going to be a cheap deal.
Former first-round pick in the 2016 NHL entry draft. He was drafted 24th overall.
It never really found
26 years old.
Never found his full stride in Anaheim.
I signed a 3-year extension with Anaheim in 2021. Yeah, Max Jones is a Boston Bruin, according to the Boston Bruins. Yeah, he had 15 points in 52 games last year. Interesting. I'm okay with that deal. That's a low risk. I want to know the dollars. That's
Sure. I
important.
mean,
Probably
you have to
low.
imagine it's close to league minimum,
750K, 1 mil.
something
I
like
want to know
that.
the term on that too. A 26-year-old's probably looking for term.
Most likely. I mean, worst case scenario, you do just bury him in the minors.
So that's what I'm saying. Once those social media posts started going out, we're probably going to see a name that didn't come out before.
Yeah.
Which also tells me that Lindholm's camp and the Zadorov camp were the ones feeding information to the big name insiders.
Most likely. Yeah, this will be an interesting. I mean, I don't know much about Max Jones. 6'3" winger.
Good size.
Per the elite prospects page, he has pretty good speed. I mean, in his final season in juniors, he didn't play a full season, but he had 19 goals in 31 games.
This one tweet, which I think will be well received by people like me. I'd take a run at Max Jones. He's got skill and is a giant prick. Still a
Well,
big fan of his. I like that. That's a good signing and could easily plug in on that wing for the Boston Bruins.
I think it's a good start. I think it's a guy who will provide competition, just like we were talking about before. You know, he's not your end all be all, have to put him in that spot, but there's potential there that he could fill the void for sure.
Oh my god, I had not seen how bad Chandler Stevenson's J Fresh card was. Do you want to see this real quick?
Yes.
All right, let's go ahead and swap over to the share screen. Then present, share screen. Voila.
Oof.
That's a lot of red for a 7-year contract.
You know what? He doesn't take penalties though.
Yeah, he won't bite you in the penalty box. That's good.
Yikes.
Yeah, was a big part of their team for Vegas, but obviously it looks like the Golden Knights made the decision to move on for a reason.
That's really surprising. I'm surprised it's that bad.
See what else is going on. Any other news coming through?
It seems like the Bruins official Twitter, is the one to look out for.
2-year deal for Max Jones.
Okay, that's fine. Again, worst case scenario, you just bury him in the minors.
Good news is we have lost our final member of the 2015 NHL draft, so I hopefully never have to fucking hear about that draft again.
Well, yeah. Rest in peace.
Sam Steele signs a 1-year deal with the Dallas Stars at 1.2 mil.
That's someone I could have seen them making a run at. He's another former
Similar
first
to
round
Mac
pick.
Jones. Yeah.
Yeah, same year too. I'd say a little more pedigree than Max Jones, but very, very similar career outlook so far.
Sweeney's bonded lock service. Sweeney's the last piece of that 2015 draft. Yeah, good point. Yeah, Matt Roy to Washington. That came out a while back. Come on, step it up, Brick. If you're going to try to break things, need more out of you. Yeah, that was already broken too, Elliot. Come on. Step it up. It looks like the Flyers just extended Garnet Hathaway. 2-year deal at $2.4 million per season. You know what's interesting? I wonder if, going back to the NBA conversation, there was an interview with Charlie Jacobs recently, and they asked him, would you be in the market for another pro sports team for the Delaware North portfolio? And he said, I'm not going to name any names, but yes, we'd be interested in purchasing another pro sports franchise. Doesn't make much more sense than the same one that shares a building with you.
Yeah. I don't
Not
think
that
you're
I'm
making,
advocating for him to buy the Celtics, but
I was going to say, I don't think you're making Celtics fans feel too good right now.
Matt Dumba to Dallas. Ty Anderson did say that there was multiple depth signings coming, so it looks like we've seen the first one that's come through. We shall see what else will be coming through. I am eagerly spamming my home button on Twitter.
You know what? That one thing I hate about Twitter X is that you can't sort by latest anymore. Remove that ability a while ago, but
Brickwall35 says he's busy dealing with his dogs breaking farts instead of news. Yeah, I enjoyed Garnet Hathaway, but for what he did, it didn't really move the needle for me. Stanley Cup champion Ryan Lomberg, 2 years, $2 million at Calgary. Boston Basketball Partners LLC, the ownership group, announced today its intention to sell all the shares of the team. Yeah, so there's that announcement.
You said Garnett was 2.4 million. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
2 years at 2.4 mil per season. I'd sign him for half of that.
Yeah, exactly. That is very pricey for him.
Good for him. Make some money.
Yeah, get the bag.
Absolutely.
Yeah, speaking of getting the bag, just want to say I'm very happy for Danton Heinen.
Yeah, good for him, man. Way to parlay a PTO into a multi-million-dollar deal.
I know. That's amazing for him. I really, really happy for him.
I don't think the Bruins are done.
I don't think so either. I mean, I think they're done with, obviously, the big signings. It's just going to be depth guys from here on out, I would imagine. Yeah. But I think there'll be 1 or 2 or 3 more names. Wouldn't surprise me.
Jones is 2 years at 1 million AAV.
Yep. So
nothing wrong.
It can be fully buried in the minors if need be.
Mm-hmm. I wonder where Jesper Boquist is going to end up.
True. Forgot about him.
Ilya Labushkin with a 3-year deal with the Stars. The Jets officially buy out Nate Schmidt.
Okay. No surprise there.
Joel Edmondson, very likely to end up in LA, was almost in Boston, Utah, and St. Louis. Wow. So we did not sign Joel Edmondson, but Bruins are in on him.
I would imagine they were probably he was probably one of their backup options if they didn't get to Zadorov.
Yeah, probably.
I'll be curious to see where Martin Necas ends up now. Obviously not with the Bruins, but
good point. . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . .
I wonder if the
Jake-
Bruins sign Nick Cousins.
Jake DeBrusk discusses how the Canucks' desire to win was a huge draw for him. No more tweets coming out from the Bruins, looks like. Max Jones one was 12 minutes ago. Unless Mark and his team are working very hard on a really cool graphic for some depth player.
Very possible. Very possible. Actually, a name I'd like to see the Bruins sign is Kaylor Yamamoto.
Oh, yeah, that wouldn't be a bad little option. Skill
Be
player that
interesting.
could fit in the middle six.
Yeah, he did not get qualified, only 25 years old. So
Oh my God, Celtics, go away. I'm so tired of this shit. It's all over my friggin' feed. So selfish.
I know, why'd they have to do it today? It couldn't have been like yesterday.
Unbelievable.
I like how they announced the big signing and then announced that they're selling the team.
Right? Now that that business is taken care of, come buy our team.
We spent 125 million, so you can spend 125 million. Oh boy, there's a report that the Fenway Sports Group wants to acquire an NBA team as well.
Oh, brother. Can you imagine Fenway Sports Group battling with Delaware North over the
God.
Celtics? This is the worst timeline. That's exactly what I've been saying for a while, Army,
For
that
sure.
the Brusque wanted to be closer to home and not here. Despite what Andrew kept saying, I was saying the entire time that I had heard that he wanted to be out.
It really doesn't surprise me because I although the Bruins probably offered him that amount of AAV, there's no way they were offering him 7 years.
Oh my God. Former Bruin legend Josh Brown signs a 3-year contract with the Edmonton Oilers with an AAV of $1 million.
3 years. Whew.
That's a bottom pair liability guy, and they gave him term.
Apparently, there are rumblings about Anthony Duclair with the Islanders.
Well, they haven't signed anybody yet, so that would make sense.
They got to get somebody.
$3.85 million for Joel Edmondson is bonkers. That is way too much money. I'm glad Boston
Wow.
did not go in that direction.
Yeah, that is wild.
Eagerly awaiting more news here. Also interested in keeping an eye on when Don Sweeney speaks to the media. He usually does that when he's wrapping up the day.
It's fairly possible that the Bruins are kind of really banking on Lysell to make a big jump here.
Yeah, definitely. Bruins fans, Mac Jones has a lot of potential. Insane locker room guy. Loves his fans more than anything. Always the last guy signing. Always a smile on his face. Wants to be there with the community. He will do so well there. Good to know. Matt Dumba, 2 years, 3.75 mil AAV with the Dallas Stars.
Jeez.
Hell yeah, we're bringing Mac Jones back, Brick.
I thought you said Mac Jones too. I was like, Mac Jones.
Looking at Dom Lashizin's graphics saying that the market value for Zadorov is 2.7. Nothing quite like doubling market value.
It's not great.
We've finally get to see Trent Frederick in a steady top 6 role. I fucking hope not. I don't think he's a top 6 guy.
My answer is no. That's it.
I don't think so. He's not good enough possession-wise. He's not good enough offensively. He's just a fine bottom 9 player. Like, you can put him up on that second line in a pinch, but I'd prefer him to be in the bottom 6.
Honestly, I think the inside track, if Lysell doesn't make a step up, is probably Morgan Geeky, friend of the show, being on that second line probably.
Yeah. Penguins have had contract extension talks with Sidney Crosby and Marcus Pettersson. The captain is a priority. Some talk of a 3-year deal discussed, but it's trending that way. Brendan Smith to Dallas. Noted tough guy. That wouldn't drop the gloves with the Zdeno Chara when he was challenged.
Yeah, well, would you?
No, but I also wouldn't skate up and act tough to Zdeno Chara either. I'd probably piss my
Fair.
pants. Lou Lamoriello announced today that the team has signed defenseman Mike Riley to a 1-year contract.
Oh. Huge signing right there.
Still nothing coming out on the Bruins for their news. Like I said, when they're done, they're going to probably put out a presser. So there's still probably something else coming through. Lou Lamoriello announced today that the team has signed Anthony Duclair to a 4-year contract. So those rumors that you were hearing were correct. Duclair to the island. Eric Gustafson to Detroit, 2-year deal. Yeah, former legend Jordan Caron, first round pick for the Bruins. Josh Yo, Pittsburgh first to report the Rangers are working on a deal to acquire Riley Smith from the Penguins. So it sounds like another trade could be coming through. Mike Riley deal is $1.25 million for the Islanders.
Solid deal for him to get back in there. Might trash on Jordan Caron, but better pick than Zach Senyshyn.
Yeah, played more. So yeah, we'll go ahead and keep this stream rolling as long as we have a reason to believe that the Bruins will still have some activity going here. Also, if any of you that are listening are going to be at the development camp on the 3rd, so that's Wednesday, I myself will be there. I'm doing a live recording of the Two Pad Stack podcast at a season ticket holder event. I'm very excited to do that. But I'd love to hang out with any of you guys after I'm done with that and, chat some Bruins hockey, maybe grab a brew or two. And yeah, it'd be great to meet up with you guys. Dom Lashizen saying that Zadorov would be amazing with Charlie McAvoy because McAvoy could really make up for some of the deficiencies in Zadorov's game. And that'll also allow McAvoy to focus less on being that big bruising guy. He can play that steady two-way defensive play that he really is exemplary at. So it'll be interesting. I don't know. I kind of like the Lindholm McAvoy pairing, but I could see Zadorov working well with Charlie McAvoy.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I don't know how they're going to deploy the deep pairings next year, I guess. But that's definitely a possibility that like I think McAvoy, especially in the postseason, was just trying to do too much. Just trying to win the game off his own back, basically.
Right. I agree.
So adding a guy like Zadorov could take that pressure off of him where he doesn't feel like he has to, make big, devastating, momentum shifting hits. He doesn't have to also be the guy in the scrums, mixing things up.
Right. Yeah.
He can just be doing what he does best, what he's most effective at.
Yeah, Army's going to be joining me recording live. So to get another backup goalie that doesn't play goalie will be joining me because Burge is going to not be available, unfortunately. But Army and I will be chatting about all of the free agent activity on this upcoming episode of the Two Pad Stack Pod. Usually the pod drops on Tuesdays. We are going to drop it this week, so it's as current as possible so we don't get into another pickle. Last time we were speculating about the Linus Ullmark deal, and the episode came out after the trade did, which was a lot of fun.
Can't be perfect.
No, it's not as bad as our first episode of the Two Pad Stack Pod when we gave it a 95% chance that Patrice Bergeron was returning, and then before I even dropped the episode, he announced his retirement. So great omen to the podcast. Pittsburgh trading Riley Smith. Yep, that's not news. What the hell? Oh, Isn't Nate Thompson a former Lightning player?
Nate Thompson. I feel like he's been on the Knights for a long time.
Retired
Maybe
NHL
not.
player. Yeah, so he's a former NHL player. Listen to this tweet.
Yeah.
The Tampa Bay Lightning will have this stain on the organization forever. Successful or not, next season, it's still a huge mistake. Lost a captain and one that produces. That's all on the surface. Not even mentioning his off-ice impact, which is bigger. Smashville is laughing now.
I don't know if it's necessarily wrong.
Oh, I do think it's an odd choice for them to back the Brinks truck up for a guy in Jake Gensel when you have a comparable player that has been the face of your franchise for a long, long time right there.
Yeah.
Like, do what's right by the player and by your fans by signing Steven Stamkos and let Gensel go wherever the hell he wants to go. You could have had Stamkos for free. You wouldn't even have to spend a third-round pick.
Right. And it's not like Stamkos is falling off either. He had 40 goals last year. He's
Right.
still really in the prime of his career, apparently.
It's just odd. Army says, the more the day goes on, the more I like the Z deal. I think that's how we're going to feel about both of these free agency deals that they've gotten here. Obviously, I'm going to reserve judgment on Max Jones until I can do some more research on his game. But these two players, they fit really noticeable voids that the Boston Bruins had this previous season. So the Bruins are a much better team in 24-25 than what they were in 23-24.
Totally agree. The Max Jones contract, even if it doesn't work out, it doesn't even matter. It's an inconsequential deal at the end of the day, even if he never plays a game for the Bruins, really. The only person that hurts is Jeremy Jacobs. And I don't know if we're really sad about that.
I'm okay. I'm okay with ruining things for Jeremy Jacobs. Nothing else yet from the Bruins. Once again, Ty Anderson did say there were multiple depth moves coming. So
yeah, and like you said, they still haven't announced a presser, so they are likely just working on something.
Draft picks are the return for Riley Smith. I'm going to have to probably call the stream at 2:30. I have to make food for my kids. They've already come down and are like, Father, I would like to have macaroni and cheese. I'm like, I have a show on. You have to wait. Talk to your mother. Their mother's working.
Breaking news out of Bruins development camp. Matthew Patra's scouting report on Dean Letourneau, quote unquote, big dude.
That's some hard-hitting analysis from Ringside reporter Matt Patra. Big dude. The Rangers traded a second-round pick and a fifth-round pick for Riley Smith. What's interesting?
Frank Saravelli speculating that the Vegas Golden Knights might be poking around Mitch Marner.
Of course they are.
Just to buy him out right after.
Where did you see that?
Apparently he mentioned it on the
Daily
Face-Off live podcast. Anaheim, the only team to not have a signing now.
Oh God, I don't even care about the Celtics, but this is funny. If John Henry buys the Celtics, I will bleep 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 ever bleep 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 bleep. So help me God. So I don't know what exactly that guy will do, but apparently it's rather vulgar.
Yeah, can't be shared.
The fuck does that even mean? The first deal Sweeney needed to get done is not done. As a result, the last deal he needs to get done isn't getting done. The depth/scoring winger is not going to get done because of the Sway negotiations. No, dude, you're overreacting.
No, the Bruins are going to purposefully keep enough money in the bank to sign Swayman.
Oh, HF boards died again. All right, Bruins. What do we got for news?
I'm surprised that they haven't mentioned or released anything further.
Nothing on their site at all right now.
Apparently, NHL Rumors Daily says the return for Riley Smith is a second and a fifth.
Yeah.
That seems like a lot for Riley Smith at this point.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so you got one guy that's saying that he thinks the Bruins are probably done up front.
Ooh.
So nobody reliable. I'm just saying it's just speculation.
Mm-hmm.
Saying top line would be Lindholm, Zaka, Pasta. Second line, Marchand, Coyle, Geeky. That's right, like that much. Third line, Frederick, Patra, Brazeau. Fourth line, Max Jones, Beecher, Mark Kostelik.
Yeah, I mean, that's you know what? I don't think it's a lot better than last year. But I don't know. I think like they're holding out hope that a guy like either Max Jones or Lysell can make a Max Jones making a career resurgence and Lysell just making a step forward to kind of fill that hole. I mean, it's also maybe possible that like throughout the year, Patra takes a step forward and can kind of supplant Coyle as that second line center, and
Yeah.
Coyle makes the move to right wing.
Yep, absolutely possible.
So I do think they have options and competition for those positions too, which is always good.
Well, what say you? Should we keep it going until the Bruins announce something? It seems like everything's kind of slowing down here a bit.
I don't know. I mean, mostly
We've been
your
live
call,
for
but
3
I'm
hours, so
certainly nothing's going to be. There'll be no like huge breaking news.
yeah. Anybody have any topics that you want us to chat about before we wrap things up today on today's show? Feel free to jump in the comments. We're happy to provide some analysis or break down whatever you want to chat about. Still nothing coming through from the Bruins. Yeah, McGroarty, Rutger McGroarty. Yeah, it was rumored that the Bruins were interested in him, and they were one of the teams in on him from a reputable Jets writer there, which doesn't surprise me. He's a center, plays at Michigan. I just don't know. It would probably cost a lot to bring him in. Plus, he would spend a full year at Michigan again, so probably cost a first round pick. And I don't think Don Sweeney and staff, they're particularly keen on shedding any more first round picks with the cupboard of prospects being as bare as what it is.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I don't know. I mean, obviously the Bruins would be stupid to not inquire about a player like McGroarty. But I'm not sure that they have the assets to realistically acquire him. He's probably, I mean, he's one of the highest touted players in college hockey right now.
Yeah.
So he would cost a pretty penny, and I don't think the Bruins are going to move first, like you said. And I don't think they want to move roster players. So I just don't see a world where they necessarily would be willing or able to move the stuff that they'd want in return.
Yeah. Well, Ty Anderson did just say that the media members are going to be chatting with Elias Lindholm and Nikita Zadorov via Zoom shortly. So that tells me that the Bruins are pretty well done if they're arranging those pressers. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up here, guys. It's been a blast for us to do our first free agent frenzy live stream. Really appreciate you guys that chimed in and added comments and participated in the discussion. It was a lot of fun. Stay tuned for an episode of the pod to drop this week. Blix, thanks again for jumping in and filling in for Burge. It was great to have you here, and it's always fun to chat with you. It's good that we didn't argue about anything today, which is good. You guys highly recommend following Blix as well. Blix, how can you be found on the old X machine?
X just at Curtis Larod. I don't post too much on there, but if you guys are interested, we chat a lot in the Discord for do the Two Pad Stack Pod. That's probably where I'm most active, anyways.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, really happy to be here. Always happy to fill in. You guys do a great job, and it's always fun to talk some Bruins hockey.
Absolutely. Thanks, buddy. And if anybody is interested in joining our Discord, feel free to just send me a DM on Twitter or message me. Always welcome to bring in other people in. So till then, it's been fun. Welcome to the Boston Bruins, Elias Lindholm, Nikita Zadorov, Max Jones. Was definitely up to the billing here. If you're Canadian, happy Canada Day. Hope you have a great one. If you're in the States, enjoy your 4th. We'll catch you next time.
Take care, guys.